Not that we needed that. It seemed to have gotten quiet just about the right time. So welcome, everybody. Good to have a good turnout today. I think we just hit quorum here. Do we have anybody else coming in? Do you know? We do. Okay, good. I have a couple more joining us. Some good, important topics this morning. So if we go ahead and get started with the pledge, Mayor, if you'll lead us in the pledge, that'd be great. You know, I pointed in that direction and said mayor, and I realized there's two of them. Sorry. Anyway, good to have everybody here this morning. We'll probably just go ahead and jump in. I did want to say that Amplify Clearwater had a really nice event yesterday, and our leader was one of the folks that led the, I guess it was panel 1 on area discussions about tourism and jobs and that kind of thing. So it was really good, and enjoyed having Mayor was there in the panel question number 2 about Clearwater and the county, and so we had a good time with that. So all good, talking about our county and tourism and its effect on all of us here. So good stuff. All right, let's jump in. I need approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion for that, please? Thank you, Dylan Hubbard.
Second.
Second, thank you. Any questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, could you clarify who the seconder was?
I'm sorry?
Could you clarify the second?
Right down there, right in front of you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, got it? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, any public comments this morning? No public comments, all right. We'll jump right into presentations. Ryan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And the first presentation we have today is intended to create a discussion, and it surrounds the capital projects funding program. Just a refresher, late last year, early this year, you all recommended, and the Board of County Commissioners approved some revised guidelines to the program. Amongst those changes to the guidelines, 2 things that we're going to talk about today, more so 1, but 2. We included the addition of beach park facilities as eligible projects in our capital funding program. Additionally, and what's going to be the main focus of this discussion is in an effort to provide some direction for both Visit St. Pete Clearwater staff and set expectations for applicants, we put into place that prior to opening up this application cycle, and every application cycle moving forward, which as a reminder occurs every 2 years, we're required to get a budget for that cycle from the Board of County Commissioners. And so this morning I want to introduce that discussion, and I hope at the end of this we can come to an agreement on a recommendation that we can advance to the Board of County Commissioners in advance of opening up this cycle.
Before we do.
Yes, sir.
Because I'm supposed to let Doreen Moore weigh in today, but we need a motion and a second to allow her to participate. If I can get that motion.
So moved.
Okay, motion and a second by the Mayor Gaddis. Dylan Hubbard, please. Got the motion and got it? Okay. All right, so I want to let Doreen weigh in if we can. Anything else?
Beautiful. I also need a clicker. I realized I don't have it, so.
In baseball, we call that an indicator. No, I'm kidding. We don't call it a clicker anymore.
Clicker used for the TV.
Yeah, exactly. And for those who umpire in baseball, they get that goofy humor. So, all right, go ahead, Brian.
And if the folks in the back could bring up the capital projects funding program discussion. There we go. All right, so this is what we just talked about. Again, looking to set that budget for this cycle of capital projects funding program. So just as a reminder, the current TDT funding allocation is divided 60% towards destination marketing, 40% towards capital projects. The only dedicated source of that capital side of things is for beach nourishment. And that amount is 1/2 of one of the 6%. So our discussion today that we wanted to propose, and I know it says recommendation, it's more of a proposal for discussion, is that we're recommending $30.6 million for the 2026 application cycle of capital projects. And you'll see we have traditional capital projects, so those are the things that historically we have funded: museums, ballparks, tournament ballparks, aquariums, things of that nature, $15.3 million, and beach park facilities, the new category, also at $15.3 million. So totaling $30.6 million, and that equals combined one of the 6%. So when you add that up, and why that's $30 million is because that's over the 2-year cycle. So each 1/2 of one of the 6% is approximately $7.65 million. You multiply it by 2, that's how you get the 15.3 recommendation for each of the categories. So when you combine this program with the funding that's allocated towards beach nourishment, you are allocating up to 1 1/2 of the 6%. That equates to approximately 24% of the total TDT collection, which leaves a remaining 14% of the total TDT collection to go into capital reserves. So it's our belief that this approach would prioritize and maintain funding for beach nourishment while also providing the opportunity to invest in capital projects, beach park facilities, and plan for future projects that are unknown. So I'll stop right there, and I'd like to hear some discussion surrounding this, answer any questions that you see on this screen. I do have more in this presentation.
Yeah, and I mean, I know everybody around this room can follow all those percentages, but it's just always, every time I do it, and haven't done it for a while, it's like dusting off all of the 1/2 of 1% equals, you know, add them all up, and it's 24% of the total. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started with some conversation around the room. Yes, Clyde.
My observation is it's a concern of mine how low the beginning fund goes in 28 and then especially in 29. Beginning fund gets down to just $4.5 million. It doesn't have a lot of wiggle room if something happens.
Yeah, so the question is in relation to the forecast for the TDT capital side of things, which is on the next slide. And I'll just dive into this if that works, if that's all right with everybody.
Go ahead, please.
So what we did on this forecast is it goes from 2025 with our actuals, what was collected, what was spent, and it goes out to fiscal year 33. And you see there the beginning fund balance for each year, the projected TDT revenue, which is the 40% of that TDT, and then you see the dedicated projects that have been approved. One of the things I want to bring to your attention is you'll see a line additional beach funds, and in FY25 you see $86 million, and then I highlighted in FY28 $43 million. What that is the beach nourishment account is separate from this, the TDT capital reserve side of things. So in 2025, in order to cover the cost of the emergency beach nourishment project, $86 million was transferred out of the capital side into that beach nourishment pot. In 2028, the negative $43 million that you see there, and why it's highlighted is because the state of Florida came and appropriated $43 million towards that project, so about half of what was transferred out of this account. So it would be my intent to simply request a transfer back into this account for the funds that the state provided. And so you will see here on the future decision points, we have penciled in $40 million in 2027 and $45 million in 2028. That is for the Phillies Baycare Ballpark facility with the city of Clearwater. and a term sheet has been agreed to. They're still working on finalizing that agreement. I believe that'll be done hopefully by the end of this year, but that's when that money would be paid out. And then below that, you see the capital projects and the beach park facilities. We have just penciled in so you can see future projections, what that looks like, this recommended funding amount for each of those silos.
Dylan, yeah. Oh, excuse me, were you finished?
That $43 million, we already have that money? Or is it projected?
We do not have that money yet. It is not in the bank account yet, but it's been approved by the state of Florida.
And already passed the governor?
Yes.
Okay.
Clyde, were you finished? I'm sorry.
No, I think that answers it. So that 43 would then add to those beginning funds if it gets approved to move back into this fund.
The ending TDT fund balance that you see before you includes that transfer of 43 back in. If we were to not include that and keep it in the beach nourishment account, we would be in the negative in the capital side beginning in 2028, and I believe for at least the following 3 years.
Okay.
Good. Anybody else? Yes, Phil.
I really hate to do this, but you know I'm a numbers guy. You made a mistake. If you look at the recommendations, 15.3 million, that's 1%. We're not recommending 30.6 million for those two, plus another 15.3 million for beach nourishment. 1/2 of 1% is about 7.5 to 8%.
Well, because the program.
It's 2 years.
It's 2
Okay,
years.
There you go.
Yes.
Thank you. You had me concerned, but
Good catch.
I guess I don't do math that well.
Chuck.
Thank you, Chair. The beach park facility program was not in our budget for years, forever, until we talked about this a year or two ago, and now it has come, and 7.5 million up to, is that inflation where it's going up to 9 by 33? Why does it keep climbing?
So that's just on our forecast. That's based on the projected TDT revenue growth in outer years.
So it's just a tremendous amount of money for what we talked about in the meeting, in my mind, was a pavilion, a ramp going down to the beach. How are we spending $100 million over the next 10 years? Explain to me a little bit about that. I have a little heartburn with that. Beaches are our #1 priority, don't get me wrong, but that's an awful lot of ramps.
I think my response to that is I don't have a good answer. This is the first time that we're going to be considering those types of projects, and we don't know what the demand for that is going to be. This was simply a starting point, and the rationale from staff's perspective was that we fund these projects no more than we fund beach nourishment, and this is what it would look like. So I think one of the other things that I would mention is that beach park facilities will compete against beach park facilities, and the traditional capital projects will compete against other traditional capital projects. But if in either one of those silos, there's excess funds available, and the other one maybe doesn't have enough money to cover some of the projects, we could certainly consider spilling over into that other pot to fund the other pots. I guess what I'm trying to say is perhaps you have more than $15 million in traditional capital projects, less than $15 million in beach park facilities, and you could use those beach park facilities to fund traditional capital projects, if that makes sense.
It does. We have some very dynamic and well-spoken mayors, not only at this table, but in our community. And so I just can see if they see that $7.5 million, $8 million, $9 million, and then we come back and say, well, listen, you're only going to get $2 million this year because we're going to do another capital project after we finish the Phillies. I can just see some high blood pressure. So I think that needs more discussion in beach park facilities. I think it's too high, but I understand it's just a placeholder-ish. It was a guess. It was a estimate. It was, so anyway, I have concern about it. I think it's too high.
Fair comment, I think, and the response was, we're going to play it by ear because we really don't know. We know that that's important, and we know it becomes almost like in effect, if we don't end up, it becomes a second reserve fund for us that we can use if we need to on anything else that this group recommends and that the BOCC approves. So I think, hold on one second, Phil. Did you have a comment, Dylan?
Yeah, I've felt very similar, and when I was thinking about it, to me, it's like our first stab, and we saw this with the events. We've seen this with a lot where the staff does a really good job once we have the framework set up of massaging it moving forward and dialing it in. We've seen that with capital events, all the different things, elite events, how we set these programs up and then massage them over the years and dial it in even better. And as far as the amount of money goes, capital projects, I haven't been on the TDC very long, but the capital projects last go-round came pretty close to that $30 million fund. So I don't see it as us spending a bunch of increased funds. I see it as we're just kind of allocating some of those funds more specifically to something that needs it. And I think in the early onset of this, there'll be a lot of beach park facilities that might go for it and might qualify. In my head, Fort DeSoto, those bathrooms and pavilions, and that's a big beach park facility that needs a lot of funding. But then maybe down the road, there's not as many that meet that requirement, and maybe we start siloing back to capital projects and continue to massage it in. And I personally feel that we're blessed with a lot of great beach park facilities, and we're blessed with a lot of great projects that are going on. So I am a little concerned about us going down to 4.5 million, but also I'm on the side, erring on the side of I'm happy we're fully utilizing the ability or our funds that we have and actually doing good work with it instead of being concerned about holding on to that money and letting it accrue interest.
If I can go ahead with a comment, I agree 100% with you, Dylan. There's major work that needs to be done in the parks. They're a major draw, and I think it's very important to do that. I think the judgment that staff is recommending is a good number to start with on it, and then when you get input from the other municipalities that have projects too, I think we're right on. I think that also that in the past, I think it was like 5-6 years ago, Phil, wasn't it that we dipped down to like almost zero, and I think we almost had to wait a year, and that's why we kind of pushed towards 2 years a few years ago. So this is not the first time we've had the dip. The part about this that's good is there's no financial cost or anything. We're paying as we go along with this, and I think that's the good part that we're doing on this. My question would be is talk a little bit about beach renourishment. We just went through this, and it was $120 million, of which we got $86 million out of here. We got back half of it. What does she say about future? How much coverage that we're appropriating now, that 0.5%, and where that works out? And if something's shortfalled, where does it come from?
Well, you're stealing my thunder of my comments. I was going to give an update on that, but you bring up a great point because beach nourishment is obviously a significant use of these funds. And what I can say is I don't have yet a projection on what those future costs would be based on the agreement that the Board of County Commissioners and the Army Corps recently signed. We feel strong that it's not going to be every 6 years as much as it was this time. I will also say the project, while it was budgeted and planned at $125 million that was recently completed, it came in under $100 million, I believe. So we did receive, plus with the state of Florida's $43 million, that refilled that account. I think the next beach nourishment project they're looking at is 2030. And I don't yet have any cost projections for that, but I think it would be less than those $100 million projects that we recently did.
Another question, if I can ask, with the, and I'm very much supportive of the parks and so forth and all, and that is an interagency of the county that controls that side. So there's the two sides of us and them. How's this going to develop? How are they going to move forward that in a year or 6 months from now, we see reports? And how does that also work in the decision-making with the municipalities that may have something as it comes along in that time? How does staff see that working to progress?
Yeah, it's a bit of an unknown at this time because we haven't opened it up yet. I do know, obviously, some specific projects have come up, or some specific parks have come up on this board, as well as the Board of County Commissioners. We talked about a Fort DeSoto, a Sand Key. Other than that, there are a number of municipalities that have beach park facilities that may have projects. I think what we've done is we've made it clear that these will compete against each other based on their contributions to tourism. So they've got to provide the data to show why that project is needed to maintain or increase tourism. And the better the data you have, the more competitive you'll be. One of the other requirements is that whether it be the county or the municipalities, they've got to have a 50% match. So they've got to be committed to the project as well. This is not 100% funding of the project from the Tourist Development Council.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, go ahead, Mayor.
I've been following this for a long time, and whenever we couldn't get sand, whenever it was such an issue, I recall the barrier islands coming together and asking for an increase in the 0.5% to guarantee that we would have enough money in the event that there was a funding issue. I'm having a little bit of heartburn with the fact that we are actually considering an equal amount for these facilities as we set back for sand. A lot of things could happen. We could have another storm. We might get off schedule and may have to do another emergency nourishment, but we'll have new facilities. It just doesn't make sense to me. It seems to me that the beach, the sand is more important than any of it. I don't have a problem funding these facilities. I think it's a great idea. Certainly, there's several of these parks, they definitely need an upgrade. But the exact same amount as what we're setting back for sand, just, it doesn't set well with me. Thank you.
Mayor Rector.
Yeah, appreciate that. Also appreciate that this last go-around on beach renourishment didn't renourish beaches that really were directly in front of properties that generate the bed tax. In large part, they were far south of the main part of Clearwater Beach. There were 7 properties south of Sheridan Sand Key. And it was right that we did that because it benefited, but to do that again, to use, you know, I just don't know, you know, how often we want to use this money for that when it really is money that's generated off of hotel rooms, Airbnbs, folks that use it. So I would say that to the beach renourishment. I think it's an appropriate amount that we're putting aside for that just in case. I would say this, that the elephant in the room is that we all know that there's a property tax reform measure probably on the ballot. I don't think it's officially there yet. There's some challenges to it, but probably there. The message is loud and clear from our residents here in Florida that they would like to see less burden on maintaining all these nice things that we maintain for tourism fall on property tax owners, particularly full-time residents here. So I think this is a gesture in doing that, where we are limited in how we can use these bed tax dollars, but all of our municipalities in the county here and our residents, our taxpayers, they bear a heavy burden tax-wise in keeping things nice for tourism and supporting tourism industry. And particularly our hotels and resorts, they pay heavy amounts in bed tax. So I think that to the extent that these beach parks tied to those parks that are heavily used by tourists, I think it's an appropriate thing. And I think it's a good thing for us to do to show the taxpayers and show the residents of the state of Florida that, we hear you. We need to be more efficient with these property tax dollars and utilize all the revenue sources we have to keep things nice and offset the wear and tear that our tourists, they just naturally, from the volume we have, we've had, particularly over the last 5 years, we've had some of the most successful years in tourism. And it is a heavy wear and tear on all our streets and roads and everything here. And unfortunately, we can't use the bed tax money for a lot of that infrastructure. But this is an idea on one way we can do that to help improve our community, particularly the county parks, which was mentioned. And so I think it's a good idea, and I support it.
Phil?
Two questions. Can you give us an update on where we are with the Army Corps of Engineers? You said there was a development. And secondly, can we see the fund balances in the beach nourishment reserve?
Yes, I can provide both, and I'm going to read from a script from the expert. I anticipated that we'd be discussing this, so Kelly Levy provided an update for me. So generally speaking, the Corps advised that there is nothing in law requiring public access and use in easement language, and that public access and use could be provided in other ways, such as customary use ordinances, similar to the one adopted in Indian Rocks Beach. The remaining easements need only be construction easements and would only run through the life of the project. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is willing to work with residents on the easement language to get to a yes. We have a template to start from, but they can ask for changes, and this was not previously allowed. So I think what we saw with the agreement signed between the Army Corps of Engineers and the Board of County Commissioners is before it was you need 100% of the easements or the federal funding will not come whatsoever for the project. And permanent. Now they're saying you don't have to have all you have to have, if you don't have an easement on a property, on a few properties, we'll still cost share on those other properties you do. The county will have to pay for the sand on those properties that they don't have easements. And they're going to make it easier to get easements because it's not, this is the easement, sign it, and we're not changing a period. Now they're willing to amend language in there to address the residents' concerns. What they heard mainly was they didn't like that they were in perpetuity and that they had public use in them. So now neither of those exist in the easements. So I hope that answers the first question.
So before you get off that, what about those that have signed a permanent easement? Are they retroactively allowed to go back to say, all right, put me on the temporary status like the ones that hadn't signed it?
I don't have that answer.
I'm just curious if it was addressed.
I can provide an answer to you at a later time. I just don't have that answer.
Okay.
And then the second question was, what is the fund balance in the beach nourishment account? And I would look to Drew, our OMB analyst. He is the mastermind behind those and can address that.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Andrew Brown. I'm with the Office of Management and Budget. We are forecasting $74 million in FY28 ending fund balance. No, that is prior to the transfer. So there's $74 million prior to the transfer, and then roughly $30 million remaining if we did the transfer.
Was that reserve? Where was that reserve? I'm sorry. What fund balance?
So in the capital projects fund where the beach nourishment program exists, that program fund balance is projected to end in FY28 at $74 million. If you do the $43 million transfer, we'd be somewhere around $30 million.
And just as a totally aside that has nothing to do with this conversation, do you happen to know what the reserve is on the 60% side of the business?
I can go look it up.
Okay,
I can answer that one. I've got it pulled up in front of me. So it's projected at the end of 2020 '26 to be at $172.8 million.
Okay. And the only reason I brought that up was just, this is a planned project, and I think there probably will be some adjustments as we go along on the facilities program, the beach park facilities, and we'll see how that goes. This is our plan, but emergencies come, and we'll be prepared to deal with those as they happen, because the BCC shares everybody around this table that the sand is the most important thing out there. We've got to have that, and it's what brings people here. So from a priority perspective, of course, I don't speak for the other 6, but I feel pretty comfortable that they feel similar to this board. So it's important to know that where the reserves are. I do think the other conversation, and you brought that up about the property tax issue that's hovering out there, and I keep saying 55% is going to be the number, which means it wouldn't pass. But nonetheless, our residents are speaking about fiscal conservatism and being careful and all of that. So we've pressed before about use of TDC funds for other uses, just to see. There's not been an appetite at the state level for that. I'm not saying that would change. I have no concept or idea. But if that did change, that we could use some of those funds for other items, obviously that would be discussed here first, and then obviously the BOCC would weigh in on it. And it would be really infrastructure as it relates to tourism facilities, because as we know, we have 1 million people in this county. With our visitors, on average, it's about 2.5. So they do put a lot of wear and tear on our systems, and there is argument for that. And I'm not saying that that's what our BOCC is looking at, but when we look at tight times and people are looking for other ways to raise funds, you just have to keep that in the back of our minds as we move forward. So we'll address that as it comes, but we'll address emergencies as they come as well, and take care of what we know is most important. Yes, Mayor Gannon.
Thank you. Brian, can you briefly discuss the existing obligations and the fluidity of some of them? For example, the Dali Museum, and how that could affect the forecast for those in the out years? How that could impact our reserves?
Yeah, I'll do my best. We have essentially placeholders in there in those 3 years, 26 through 28, for all of those that we have that are approved projects, that agreements are in place. Any projects that go through our capital funding program, we then enter into a 3-year funding agreement. And so that's why you see that from the last cycle in 2024, you see 2026 through, well, actually the Dali was before the last cycle. They were in 2023. So you'll see those typically in about 3-year increments from the time that the agreement's signed until the time the agreement ends. But as we've noticed, that is kind of fluid. The Dali project's been out there for some time. We've got the Florida Holocaust Museum in 2026, and that was approved years ago.
Is there any possibility that any of these agreements would need to be modified in the next 4 to 5 years, such that it would have an impact on that beginning fund balance in '29?
Yeah, I think there's always the possibility that projects, under the old system, what we found is that specifically if it's a project that's maybe leasing a building or leasing the land from a city, perhaps you've got to get all your ducks in order on that project. If you're a museum and you're raising funds, because you have commitments, you've still got to go out and raise those funds. And depending on how that occurs, some of these projects may or may not get started on time. So some of those may need to be extended and pushed out to the outer years, which would increase the fund balance in the closer years and decrease that in the outer years. And if any of the projects didn't come to fruition, that would obviously impact it as well. Is that what you're looking for? Mm-hmm. Thanks. And by the way, we tried to address those situations in the new guidelines, saying that you can't use projections of what you think what you plan to raise. You need to have that money on hand before you apply.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Oh, goodness, I go here to Copley. Go ahead.
Thank you. Brian, in 2025, or the last CapEx round, what was the total allocation for CapEx 2 years ago?
0, I believe.
The last round we opened up
Oh, the last
applications.
round, I'm sorry. That was approximately $26 million. Was ultimately approved.
So, and I think most everybody here knows I try not to be the negative Nancy, but I'm going to be it today. And so I agree with Commissioner Prather. I'm struggling with this. When we talked about beach park facilities, I was skeptical about it because every time we take a crack at this system, this is kind of what happens. And, you know, when we had 26 million the last time we opened up applications, now we've allocated 15 million towards beach park facilities, of which really we've only talked about 2 beach park facilities, Sand Key and Fort DeSoto. You are taking $15 million away from the rest of the county to focus on 2 beach park facilities. And so I really struggle with that. I mean, I know of projects that are going to come and ask for $45 million for CapEx. You know, the city of St. Petersburg has not asked for TDC funding since 2000. And very specifically because we knew we were going to have a big ask. We tried to be a good neighbor to the rest of our municipalities and our beaches. And I'm not arguing one bit against renourishment. I would never do that, especially on this commission. And so I would never do that. But to talk about allocating, and I understand that it's the framework, but every time we do that, we open up the door to take money away from other facilities. And at $26 million the last go around, and now for there only to be 15 available, when we know there are major asks coming across, and Mayor Rector, this is not at you, but in the past there has been North County versus South County, and I think we have done a very good job of not doing that. And so please know that that's not what I'm doing. I'm just using it as an example. But the city of Clearwater has $100 million in allocations for facilities as it stands today. And now there's $15 million for the entire county available for the next 2 years. And again, the city of St. Petersburg, I'm speaking for me, I'm speaking for our residents, has not made an ask knowing that there was a chance of a large ask coming. Now that that's gone, we have other facilities we need to take care of that are drawers. We had never asked for the marina. We had never asked for Alang, Mahaffey, those facilities that draw those people. And now we are limiting that bucket. And I'm struggling very, very hard with that. And so, again, I'm not against the renourishment. I am totally for the renourishment. Mayor Rector, thank you for, I appreciate your comments about, hey, I'm not sure we should do that again. That says a lot about where you stand on this, and I very much appreciate that. But again, from a facility standpoint, to automatically say, well, we're going to go $15 million for 2 facilities, this is where I had trouble with the original vote. And so I'm struggling with this. I needed to say it out loud. I appreciate you all listening to me. And again, I know we only have a small sliver of beach. Our facilities are our drivers. And the way we look at it at St. Petersburg is, yes, they come to go to the beach, and then they might stay an extra day or 2 to go to a museum, to go to a facility, to go to a Rowdies game, to go to those things. And so we are helping with that. And I want them to come to St. Petersburg and stay on the beaches. I stayed on the beach 2 weeks ago with my family, 2 miles away from my home. And so I'm doing those things too. And so I'm struggling with this allocation, and we really need to be intentional about how we're spending money on our facilities. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. I understand where you're coming from, and I think you said it best, that there's been a request kind of in limbo there for a while.
Yep.
And that's gone. So we expect there to be additional planning thoughts coming forward. And I do, it's a big deal, what's going on. And when you look at the Dali Museum, I think that's a significant investment, not to the city government of St. Petersburg, but certainly to St. Petersburg in our entire county. Probably one of the most popular places when I have family coming down and visiting. It's like, let's go down to St. Pete, let's go down to the museum. There has been an investment there. But I do think that your point is well taken. I do think that there's going to be some additional asks, and that we'll flush that out when we start looking at these projects. So having said that, Phil, and they'll come to you, Chuck.
My first question, well, let me rearrange things because I kind of somewhat agree with what he's saying. The recommendation is for 30 million over the next 2 years, plus a placeholder. And don't get me wrong, I'm not against this at all for the Phillies for 83 million. Well, your budget has 85 million for a Phillies project, but yet the next 2 years we're only allocating 15 million for traditional projects plus the 85. Like I said, I'm not against that project, but so we're rearranging things, taking money out of beach nourishment to cover it. To clarify, we're able to go in and out of beach nourishment reserves, and we're able to go in and out of the 60% if we need it for emergency purposes for capital like beach nourishment. Correct?
Correct on both of those. And I think going into the beach nourishment to put in the capital is not something that typically would be done. In fact, the reason it's highlighted is because we would need to get authorization to do that. OMB would not typically do that. Typically, we're adding money to the beach nourishment pot. But as far as dipping into the operating reserves, what's built up in those operating reserves and allocating them towards projects, whether it be beach or something else, yes, we can do that.
And likewise, if we had an emergency where we had to do more promotions and so forth, on the 60% side, we could take it from the capital side if it was voted to do so.
Well, realistically, I don't see where that would ever occur because we have the significant reserves.
Right.
We have, but
So it goes both ways.
Yes.
It can, but it's got to be approved. Right.
yes,
Okay.
I say that with just, I'm looking to the attorney and to OMB just to make sure my assumption is correct.
Well, my point is we have flexibility should something unexpected come up. And that's what a lot of
Yes.
concern is, that,
Yes.
well, we need to reserve this money because what happens if something terrible happens, either to beaches or to the promotion side for whatever reason. So
I think where you would get into trouble is if one year you said, "Hey, we're gonna do 100% on marketing or 100% on capital and do no
right.
marketing." That's where you would not be able to do that.
Right. I'm just talking about, should something unexpected, which the unexpected will occur at some point.
Yes.
You know that.
Did I say anything?
But getting back to my point, we're saying 15 million, but we're also saying 85 million for one project, which is deserving of it, I think, but it's not decided yet. It hadn't been approved yet. And we're also talking about looking at, moving money out of beach reserves to fund that. So I don't know how that shook out, so to speak, when you're limiting the monies for traditional capital projects, which haven't been applied for, but we have an $85 million placeholder for one project.
Well, that project is not part of the Category D. That does not go through the capital funding program. That goes a separate path. It's a separate category. I believe that's Category E projects, I believe. The projects that go through this funding program get reviewed by staff, come to the TDC, and then ultimately approved by the BCC are only Category D. Professional sports stadiums and professional spring training facilities are a separate category.
But within the 40%.
Within, yeah, it's a capital project, so yes.
Okay. That's good clarification. It's a different category. That's why it's there.
Yes, sir.
All right, because I know a lot of people might be asking that. I figured, well, if you only get 15 million for traditional capital, then how do we get 85 million out of that? But that's a separate category.
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. Thanks.
Chuck?
Thank you, Chair. Mayor Gannon brought up a very good point, I thought. What was it, 2 years ago that the Dali came and did their beautiful presentation, and their ask, my memory says it was in the mid to little bit upper mid 30 million ask, and we negotiated and we talked, and ultimately we decided on this 25, wherever it is there, 25.2 million, and then come back to us at a later date for the last 10, 12 million. So of course that's not up there because that's not what the BCC approved, but has there been any discussion of that remaining ask that they originally did at the TDC 2 years ago?
No, the last discussion was what came out of the Board of County Commissioners meeting, is that they would approve the $25.2 million, and that additional, I believe, was $8 million. You have the ability to come back to the BCC and request those additional, that additional funds if and when the BCC gets to a resolution with the Army Corps. So,
so if we do that, as Mayor Gannon mentioned, that ask would now take us into negative numbers unless we adjusted one of the other categories, which a lot of them you just said are placeholders. So I think that's important to note.
Yeah, I think just for clarification, there are ideas of projects. You know, we're working on some studies for some projects. We're out at RFP for projects. We don't know what those costs are going to be, and they haven't been committed to, so those don't show up on here. The only funds that you see on here are for projects that have been authorized by the Board of County Commissioners.
And I think that's as you say, that's kind of a dynamic process. And the ask 3 years ago is going to be different than the ask this year or next year or the following year. So we'll just have to see what comes in and then prioritize, because some haven't had any. So anything else?
One last clarification. Between the two 0.5%, one for traditional, one for beach parks, when we see what's actually applied for, and we see maybe there's more for traditional or there's more for beach parks and less for the opposite, would we be massaging those at that point, or strictly saying here's our budget for traditional and here's our budget for beach parks, and if we don't have asked for it, it's going to go in reserves?
So if you're talking about during the 2026, this 2-year application cycle, yes, we would look at that. And if we went out and it came back with 25 million, we recommended, we'd like to recommend up to $25 million on the traditional side, and there's only $4 million even requested on the beach park facility size. We would suggest that you would be able to tap into that for traditional or vice versa. Okay. And as a reminder, I know we forecast in here that 0.5% for each of the outer years, every year in perpetuity. But I'm going to come ask, and we're going to have this discussion every 2 years before we open up this cycle. So what we're looking for today is only a budget for this 2-year cycle. I'll come back in 2 years and ask at that point in time, based on what's occurred, what's been funded, where we stand, that cycle, what would we like to allocate at that point? So that will change.
Perfect, thanks.
So I've heard a lot of strong opinions around the table about that beach park facilities program placeholder. And I've heard, well, it's at 0.5% now. I mean, our recommendation could be less, it could be the same. Again, I just wanted to make, the issue of infrastructure expenditures of these funds that we have are very, very limited. I mean, I mentioned the fact that that could be opened up down the road. Who knows? It doesn't seem likely. So what we're saddled with is limited infrastructure, and the beach park facilities was part of that infrastructure that really complements that whole effort of opening up our beaches to folks. There's nothing worse than if you go up to the Tarpon Springs, Fred Howard Park up there. I was up there, I don't know, maybe a month ago, and the beach, the bathroom facilities are closed. It doesn't look good. I mean, they go up to see the sponge docks in Tarpon Springs. They want to spend a day at the beach there, for instance, and you see that kind of stuff. It doesn't reflect well. So I think there's an argument for that. But if this group is, and I want that discussion to be had. I would like to know if we have a consensus at leaving it at 0.5% here, or do we want to drop it back a little bit and go from there, because it philosophically challenges some of the thoughts that you all have as it relates to priorities. So I've heard different conversations, pretty strong ones too. So I think it's important that we leave this conversation with an understanding that now we, as a majority, want to drop that down a little bit. If it's a, instead of a half, it's a quarter, and put the other in whatever, capital funding, beach renourish, whatever we want to do with it. But I want, again, we don't have everybody here, but I think it's important that we have that discussion. Do we have to do that today, or can?
I would like to get some direction because I'll be presenting to the Board of County Commissioners on August 6th, and I can't open up the applications until we get that direction.
Yep, direction and the approval by
And then
the commission.
approval the
Yeah.
following month in September.
Dylan.
Yeah, just to kind of summarize and clarify, Mayor Rector's comments were, I agree with, and very good in my opinion. And to me, this is a stab at our first try at these beach park facilities. And this conversation and trying to use some TDT funds for infrastructure has been ongoing. And to me, this is our first stab at it. This is just for this 2-year cycle. And I've heard many times, Brian, you state that it's liquid in the state, that if we have a lot on the traditional side and only a little on the beach park facility side, we can be fluid. So in my opinion, that's why I'm leaning towards supporting this. Okay.
And if I could just clarify, I just want to make it clear, I wouldn't want the expectation to be, if we get $75 million of capital, traditional capital project requests, and we get 15 million or 10 million on the beach park facilities, that we're automatically just going to say, hey, there's a bigger demand over here, and we're not going to fund some of these beach park facilities because we think these other projects are better, have a stronger ROI. We would not do that. We would only dip into that other side if the requests there simply didn't come to fruition. Does that make sense?
I'm not sure it helps comfort people, but it does make sense, yeah.
But to that point, we have a conversation about it around this table.
Yes.
Copley.
Thank you, Chair. I guess my clarifying question is, why wouldn't we just base everything off the ROI of, like, why have it be two separate? If that's the case, why not have it one big pot and based solely on ROI?
Well, in the guidelines, we do have two separate standards for the applications. And so we set it up in a way for beach park facilities to compete against beach park facilities and traditional to compete against themselves. And particularly, we ask a lot of those traditional capital projects in their application. We need them to hire an economist to do a economic impact report. We want to see those 10-year projections of incremental economic impact, visitors, tourists, room nights, that sort of thing. We simply couldn't ask that of all of the beach park facilities. So the standards are different. And so on the beach park facilities, we're looking for the data that the county or the municipalities can provide. So we're talking about, hey, we've got Park Mobile app at this beach park facility. So because of that, we see license plates. We know that over the last year, we got 800,000 cars, and of those, 600,000 were from outside of Pinellas County. That's a good data point. But we don't expect them to come forward and say, have a 10-year economic impact study for these beach park facilities.
Okay. So I'm not picking on Clearwater, Mayor Rector, but you just happen to be the only other municipality on this list. So 2 years ago, when Clearwater Beach Municipal Marina applied in traditional CapEx, did they have to provide an economist in a 10-year, even though it's a municipality?
They did, because that's not a beach park facility, that's a public facility, which is another category that hasn't come up today, but that's already allowed in the plan.
Okay. That's all I had, Chair. Thank you. Phil?
Since we've discussed this and thrown it all around, we know there's a lot of flexibility. I'd like to move that we support the recommendation and let Brian go forward with the commission as it is.
Are we having a formal vote? We could have a second and then we'll just continue the discussion if we have a second.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second to leave as recommended. I saw, Mayor Rector, did you?
Yeah, I, love St. Petersburg. You all, you made really good points. And your point is that we have an appreciation in this county for beaches and all the tourism beaches generate. But the city of St. Petersburg generates a lot of tourism that doesn't have anything to do directly with beaches, and we appreciate that. And certainly, things come up in the future, you can count on us to support that, so.
I appreciate that, Mayor. No, it's important. Yeah. It is, and that's why we.
I do want to say, though, that the number in reserves for is striking. That's a very big number. And
The other side, you mean?
Yeah.
Operation.
And I think that's a tough explanation to residents and taxpayers, why we're sitting on that large of an amount when there's this pressing need for affordability in our area.
Yeah, I think that's an understatement, and I think that's something we're going to have to wrestle with. I mean, I'm not quite sure where that wrestling match takes place. It'll take place here, I would imagine, at some point, but it is a little uncomfortable conversation, only because it's like, it's just sitting there, and it's like, I don't know how that reserve level has been over the years. Maybe I should ask that question first, but like, say, the last 2 or 3 years, and our anticipation, I think, has been increasing every year. It's just my guess, but.
Yeah, the only answer I could give you on that is that we have a 60% allocation for the operation side, advertising and marketing, destination marketing, and as far back as I can look, we've never been allocated in our budget request to operate Visit St. Pete Clearwater and market the destination. We've never been given 60%. It's been from 40% to, prior to me getting there, up to about 49, 50%. And since 2023, when we did request an increase of $6 million and then requested the following year for that to set the new baseline, so essentially an additional $12 million. We've gotten it up to about 56% of total collections, I believe, in the 2027 request. So that's why it's built up over time. The 60%, as much as 20% of that is going into reserves every year on the operating side and not coming to our organization to market the destination.
I remember asking that question as a new commissioner and thinking that 60% seemed high for all of the reasons that we're talking about. And I was just pointed in a different direction of where my thoughts were. So it is a ticklish topic, but I don't think it's one that we can't have here. I mean, we have to be able to discuss it, for crying out loud. If we can't talk about it here, then I don't know where we can talk about it. The county commission, I'd rather them, hear we're not going to get into that today, okay? I'm just saying we don't have the time for that. But I do think that's a healthy conversation to have for all the reasons we're talking about, for transparency, for fiscal conservatism that our residents are screaming for. We had a conversation yesterday just simply about, a new county attorney that we chose yesterday, and how his salary package is going to end up consolidating under one number, so it's more transparent to our residents instead of having different categories. And you say, well, his salary's this, but he has other things, or she has other things. So we're going to kind of talk about that. We haven't solidified that, but that's the direction I've been given to negotiate. So the idea of transparency is critically important, and I think that's something that we here have to embrace so that our county commissioners get our thoughts on that. To your point, that we never had gotten to 60% in terms of funding, and so our reserves, even with that, have gone up to where they are. So we talk about wanting more money, where it comes from and all of that stuff, just be thinking along those lines again for another day of dialogue.
Chair, if there's no other discussion, I'd ask for a roll call vote.
Yes, thank you. That's where we're going right now. Okay, can we go, is a roll call vote okay? We'll start, the motion on the table is to leave it as recommended. We'll start with, can we do a roll call, please?
Yes, we can. We've never done that before.
He asked
We've
for a roll
always
call.
just done,
I
so
know.
Tracy, if you can keep track of, if we can just go down the list and.
Comment, if that's okay. The reason why I feel so strongly about this issue is because beach park facilities is pretty much a static, all right? You're going to have regular maintenance. You're going to take care of it. You can put it on a schedule. It's very predictable. The beach, the sand, it's unpredictable. You have storms. We don't know what the Army Corps is really going to do. We don't know if the state's really going to, how much money we're going to get from the state each time we have these issues. And we also can't really count on, we don't know what's going to happen with tourism fluctuations. Reason why I feel so strongly about this being an even share is because we're all gambling that, that they're the same. And they're really not, based upon what I'm seeing, is that, I feel that we owe it to our beaches that we should, if we're willing to throw 0.5% towards beach park facilities, that means all this time we've been holding back on that 0.5% that we were asking. We were actually asking for 25% of 1%. Increase whenever we didn't think we were going to get any funding whatsoever. And this group said no. They absolutely said no. And now we're willing to go ahead and do more than what we were asking for. I would feel better if we would commit a slight bit more and a slight bit less for each fund, because at the end of the day, it is unpredictable. We don't know what's going to happen. I know that the county can come through for us. We've seen it, but it shouldn't have to. It should just, we should always have enough money to fund the beach in the event that something happens. And,
Yeah, and to your point, Mayor, I mean, just so you know, the county can come through either way. So even if we do what you're asking, we can come through in a different way. And we typically embrace the feelings of this board because we all share them for the most part. I understand your point. Maybe it's more symbolism than, that we are more committed to beach renourishment than we are to, the infrastructure part of the beaches. That I can certainly understand what your point is, but I think the fluidity of the funds, I think we all know that, but so anyway, just making a comment about that. So I appreciate your passion and your thoughts about that. Any other comments on that before we start the roll call? And I mean that. Let's get this out. If you have something else you want to bring up, this is important. And the vote that we take, unanimous versus 51-49 is a message to the Board of County Commissioners that, hey, this is a ticklish issue. And maybe it's not about the funding fluidity, because we know we have it, and we know it's a priority. It's just maybe more about a message. I don't know. I'm not putting words in your mouth, but.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
I feel that our first priority should always be the beaches.
Well, I don't think we've ever swayed from that. And I don't think anybody that sits on the county commission will ever do that again. Oh, look who's raising her hand. Doreen, go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you. I apologize for the technical. Yeah, I won't go into a long dissertation. I can't deal with my volume, but I'll wait for the consensus vote instead of comment. Sorry.
Okay. Did I see another hand up? I know that Copley had asked for a roll call, and I didn't get a second on it, so I'm taking a little prerogative here to open up any other conversations. Okay. All right. And are you ready to keep tabs? And we'll start down with Phil, please.
Aye. Yes.
Yes.
That's the
Yes.
two yeses. Go ahead.
Yes.
Aye.
No?
Yes.
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 Yes, and that motion carries.
Do you want to get Doreen?
Oh,
Yeah.
Doreen, I'm
Yes.
sorry, Doreen, about that.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 to 1 on that vote? Is that what you have? Okay. All right. Then we'll move on. But I do think the message here, your comments, a lot of comments around this table will be taken to the board. So, go ahead.
Thanks, sir. Well, with that, we can move from capital to our other favorite topic, and that is elite events. And Craig is going to, I believe, do a amended FY26 elite event request, so we can knock that one out, and we'll be out of 2026 and into the future in 2027.
Good morning. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excited to be here. Yeah, we're gonna do a quick flip-flop here. So in your agenda, it lists fiscal year 27 first, but we're actually gonna tackle fiscal year 26. We do have just one quick item. There's an updated request from a new organizer. Clearwater Offshore Nationals is now under a new promoter. So Tampa Bay Charities is no longer the organizer. We received that information back on May 21st, and Race World Offshore was named the new organizer, and they have submitted a new application. No substantive changes to their footprint. They were actually the contractor who executed most of the operations for the event in years past, so they're obviously familiar with that event. We received that application May 27th for the same funding amount that the original applicant had received, which is $125,000. You can see the metrics we considered. Our staff recommendation is to keep the same funding level, which is $125,000. And then really just wanted to have a quick conversation, answer any questions you might have about this application, but we would like your recommendation that we can take to the BCC in August.
Okay. Any questions? Do I have a motion to approve? Copley on the motion? Second from Mayor Gaddis. Or Dave, I should say. If I'm going to say Copley, I'll say Dave. Sorry about that. Any other comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you so much. And if we could switch the presentation to FY27, I trust everyone is warmed up by now. So let's jump into FY27 elite event recommendations. First off, excuse me. Excuse me. So just kudos to this board, as well as the county commission. The recommendations that you made back in February and that the board approved in March, extremely well received. As you can see, we had a record response this year in number of applications. So 63 applications for funding this year, over $5.1 million requested. That's an increase of from 50 applications and $3.59 million requested last year. So obviously we have a budget constraint that we need to work around here. The budget is $3 million for this program. Our goals, as always, for this program, 2 quick points. A, good stewards of the funding, and B, maximizing ROI. So with those goals in mind, I'm excited to show you how we got to our funding recommendations for fiscal year 27. First off, a quick refresher on the funding criteria. So I won't go line item by line item here, but we did capture the change that was recommended by Phil and the board back in February to transition from a percentage of tourist-based model into a number of tourist-based models. So that is reflected here in the guidelines and in the criteria. So category 1, just a reminder that These are your high-impact and high-visibility events. They must check both boxes for attendance and broadcast, and those eligible events are, can qualify for funding up to $250,000. Category 2, it's an either or proposition, so they must check one of the boxes of either attendance or broadcast for funding up to $150,000. And then categories 3 through 5, you can see it kind of scaled back or scaled down from an attendance and tourist numbers, and the up to funding also scales down accordingly. So what were some of the considerations and factors that the VSPC staff had when we started our review process? So data, first and foremost, of course. So Placer AI is our tool to verify attendance and tourist figures, and that's across all events. As presented back in February, we've performed significant testing and validation of this tool over the past year and a half to 2 years. So it gives us a lot of confidence in the numbers that tool provides. A quick note on non-ticketed public events. So we used what we called an attendance uptick. So essentially, we took the average amount of people that entered the public space during non-event times versus how many people entered that space during the actual event. And then the event received credit for the difference, AKA the uptick there. And I'll highlight some of those events as we go through the spreadsheet later on. The 50% rule, that was an important consideration. There were 10 events that you'll see in the spreadsheet that did not qualify for funding, but per the 50% rule would receive 50% of the funding they received this past year. And this applies to only fiscal year 27, so that is a one-year rule there. So once we had verified all the data, we had taken all the special circumstances into consideration, we had a plan for the 50% rule, we were then able to place every applicant into an appropriate category, but it still didn't address the $3 million budget concern. We still had eligible funding requests in excess of the funding available. So we had to continue to get creative, and that's where we started to explore a number of different scenarios where it would just simply get us under budget. So we are recommending what we're calling the tiered funding approach. So with this scenario, categories 1 and 2, there would be no changes to either of those funding buckets. Categories 3 through 5, you would see adjustments there. So category 3, they would be eligible to receive up to 70% of the category max, category 4 up to 60%, and category 5 up to 50%. Mentioned earlier our goals of being good stewards of the funds, maximizing ROI. This approach helps us, in our mind, was the best approach to help us accomplish those goals by prioritizing the high-impact events while also investing in as many as eligible events as possible. Here's more of like a visual breakdown of that tiered funding approach. So we'll start to dive into our spreadsheet here momentarily, but wanted to kind of cover off each of the different categories here. So category 1, again, no adjusted cap there. There's 3 events that qualify for category 1. Category 2, no adjusted cap there. 10 events qualify in that particular category. And then category 3, you start to see the adjusted cap numbers. So 70%, which means the new max for category 3 is $52,500. We had 7 events qualify for category 3. And then 4, there's your 60% adjusted cap down to $30,000. 6 events in category 4. Category 5, there's your adjusted cap 50%, $12,500 is your new max. 11 events in that category, and then the 10 events that did not qualify but would receive the 50% rule. A quick footnote here on the use of funds. So It mentions category 1s and 2s are negotiable, and really this is to ensure that we receive maximum visibility in those events that offer broadcast. Categories 3 through 5, we would do a 50% split, half of the funding towards marketing and the other half through sponsorship. And with that, we'll do a quick run through of the spreadsheet. So let's see here. Should all be color coded for you. So the events numbers 1 through 3, these are your category 1s in yellow. So you can see the breakdown of their funding requests, the total number of attendees and tourists, whether they met that broadcast criteria, ultimately what they were eligible for funding-wise, and what our recommendation is. And then also, there's additional information there on the right, the increase or decrease compared to last year's funding. Category 2 here, in orange, so numbers 4 through 13, I will call out, and I apologize, I totally glossed over the special circumstances here, so I'm going to backtrack. The middle of this slide here, special circumstances, we had a handful of events that we needed to look through a slightly different lens. So Clearwater Jazz Holiday, Spring King of the Beach, those events were impacted by weather this past year. So we took their 3-year attendance average. Clearwater Jazz was canceled in '24 due to the hurricane. So we looked at 25, 23, and 22 for their 3-year average. There's also 3 events that are relocating from other markets. And I'll touch on this in the spreadsheet here momentarily, but we had some challenges collecting data for those 3 events. And I'll indicate those on the spreadsheet here shortly. And then the peer events bundle. So 5 events from the peer events organizer, downtown St. Pete, qualified for funding. We are recommending to bundle those 5 together, which offers a little bit of savings towards the budget. We thought it was a bit more reasonable approach for funding those events. So back to the spreadsheet, and sorry about that. So events 4 through 13, number 9, there's your peer events bundle. So 5 events would be packaged together. You can see the total attendees and the tourists when you do that. And again, each of those 5 events would qualify on their own merit, and when bundled together, become a category 2. Your category 3 events, so so that's 14 through number 20. Clearwater Offshore Nationals, number 14, just wanted to highlight, they would actually receive a recommendation above the 50% rule. So this is the first category where that, the adjusted cap would kick in. So 52,500 is the recommendation for every category 3 event, except for Clearwater Offshore Nationals because of that 50% rule. And then category 4, we have those 6 events, 21 through 26. There's really no comments on those. Category 5, so Clearwater Jazz Holiday, number 27. Those are the 3-year average figures that you see there, total attendance and number of tourists. All the other category 5 events are eligible for $12,500. However, Clearwater Jazz would be at $37,500 due to the 50% rule. Tampa Bay Barbecue Festival, similarly, 50% rule there, $20,000 is their recommendation. And then down towards the bottom of page 2 there, you have Winter Wonder, St. Pete Luxury Automotive Experience, and then number 37 on the next page, Mustang Week, Florida. So for these are the 3 relocated events. So Winter Wonder coming over from Tampa, the Luxury Automotive Experience from Naples, and Mustang Week from Myrtle Beach and Galveston, Texas. And we came across basically a data collection concern there. We weren't confident in the data. We certainly have hard data for every application here. We were not comfortable with the tourist numbers. So based on that information, we're suggesting category 5 for those 3 events. We do recognize that The attendance will likely be much higher than the 7,500 that's listed there, but it's really the tourist number that's lacking from the Placer AI tool. So I wanted to highlight those. And then, excuse me, on page 3, events 38 through 47, we have the Spring King of the Beach, that's number 42, and we're using the 3-year average on that event as well. And all of these are technically don't qualify on the numbers, but would receive the 50% rule funding. And then lastly, on page 4, you'll see the events that applied and did not receive a recommendation. So feel free to review that information. So that's it for the spreadsheet. And again, kind of wrapping it all together here, 63 total applications. We're recommending 46 applications for funding in addition to 1 bundle. That would consume the entire $3 million budget. Some of the program impacts, when you collectively look at all these events, over 1 million attendees across the 47 projects, over 500,000 tourists that would attend these events. And of course, the broadcast assets we would receive across Fox, ABC, Golf Channel, NBC, things of that nature. Tremendous exposure for the destination. We did receive some information from Future Partners, our official data research vendor, yesterday, kind of translating into some other figures here. It's over 135 million in economic impact and over 116,000 room nights generated by the program. So massive impacts for the county. I think it's a program we can all be proud of. And that is it for my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. I know we have a couple of comments that folks want to bring up, so we'll do that in a minute. But go ahead, Clyde.
Greg, a question on the did not qualify, but they're falling under, excuse me, the 50% rule. Is that 50% of the former 100% funding? I mean, because the others you tier down with, 70, 60, and 50.
So it's strictly 50% of what they received last year in the FY26 cycle. So if you look at Festivals of Speed, just calling that one out, they received 65,000 last year in funding. They did not qualify in this year's cycle, so they're receiving exactly 50% of that.
Okay, I know I voted on the 50% rule when we set these up, but if we're trimming all the ones that do qualify, some almost at the next level, I don't know that they should get 100% of the old 50%.
Copy that, yeah.
Opposite.
How it's kind of written in the guidelines, in our minds, it was pretty ironclad that they cannot receive less than 50% of what they previously got.
Okay.
But some of them are getting more than 50%. Based on the funding request, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the chart, looks like the second one. Just as an example that, the previous year they got 50, so they're getting 25. Then you see one that's got 25, it's getting 25. I was just.
If they qualified in that, can you give me an example there?
Yeah, in that category of did not qualify, you're saying they get up to 50% of the previous, or is it 50% of the previous year or 50% of the request?
Of the previous year's funding.
Okay, so.
That event received, are you looking at Saver?
I'm just looking at these, the ones in the white category here. It doesn't show what they got last year. So it's hard to compare.
So essentially, if you were to add up the two columns on the right, that's what they received last year. So 32,500 plus 32,500, they received 65,000 last year.
Okay,
so all those numbers
all those numbers are at 50% of the previous year.
That is exactly right, yes.
Okay, all right. Clyde, did you have anything else?
Just a comment that I just think the way the category 3, that everyone got dropped down to that 52.5 despite their number of tourists, it doesn't seem like it's equitable. I understand they all fell under the 70%, but some have over 10,000, some have just over 6,000, but everyone's getting the same amount. Knowing we had to cut some because of the amount done, it just seems that it's not shared properly.
Sure, and our, again, our kind of approach here and goal was to prioritize those high-impact events. So category 1s and 2s, that for us was the high priority. In category 3 through 5, fantastic events, but didn't quite meet the level of 1 or 2. So we have explored other, scenarios for sure. One of which, basically you'd have to take from category 2 to then bump up all the 3s, 4s, and 5s. So there's scenarios out there.
Even on that, like, number 17 on the list has got attendees of 28 and tourists of 13, and higher than several of the ones in the category above. Each one of those categories was higher than several above. So I know there was other reasons for.
Exactly. Yeah, category 2 has the broadcast consideration, so if they check that broadcast box, that sent them right into category 2.
And so all those that were below that number, above, had the broadcast piece to it, it looks like.
Correct. That's one of that middle column there, broadcast meets eligibility criteria.
Yeah, okay. I'm just trying to make sure I'm understanding. And then the split number, was that an arbitrary, that's 70, 60, 50 versus 80, 70, 60, or is that just how it kind of worked out as far as funding availability?
How it worked out, yeah, exactly, for availability.
So if we went to 80, 70, 60 as an example, we'd probably have to take a little bit, because it wouldn't be much from each of the other 2 categories, 1 and 2.
Correct.
You have to find it somewhere.
That's exactly right.
If the argument is you're going to leave it at 3 million, then we have to find it somewhere. So if you wanted to boost those numbers a little, we'd have to take it from 1 and or 2.
Correct. Okay. Yeah, and I can touch on, I have a bonus slide here. So just for conversation's purpose here, our recommendation is scenario 1, as you see there on kind of the left side there. So 70%, 60%, 50%. Scenario 2 was, okay, we would take a little bit out of category 2. They would have a new max as well, and everyone's at 80% from category 2 through 5. So those would be the new adjusted max. You see the categories 3, 4, and 5, they go up a little, and category 2 comes down a little.
Just try to get a kind of a sensitivity thing, how it worked. Dylan?
And I personally, looking at this at first, I saw it as a kind of a good problem to have, right? We have so many great events and so much requests. Now that the word's getting out about this, and $135 million impact was pretty crazy for essentially $5 million investment. So to me, that ROI is there, and there's no way to get more funding, even with this really large reserve that we're sitting on, because it's in the plan, I believe, right?
So to answer that, both the guidelines, but also the tourist development plan call for up to $3 million for elite events. And so is it possible to increase that? Yes. Does that require a number of levers being pulled? Yes. So that would require this board to approve the tourist development plan, increasing the funding for elite events. It would then require the Board of County Commissioners by a supermajority vote to amend the tourist development plan to increase that funding, and then we'd bring these back to you. So I think, can it be done? Is it possible? Absolutely. The impact it would have is that many of these events start in late September, early October, and in order to do that now, you're looking at September or October before we even are able to bring these back to you all, assuming the Board of County Commissioners approves that change. So it's certainly something that could be done. However, if that's what this board is looking for, I would suggest next year would be a better time when we instead of at the end of the application cycle.
Any other questions? Phil?
I won't be here next year, so I'll make this suggestion now. I'm not suggesting we change things for this year, but it's kind of mulling around thinking about this thing where we have so many attendees and so many tourists. And if you have a one-day event, you have so many attendees and so many tourists that are there for one day. But if you have a 4-day event, you have so many attendees and so many tourists, but they're only counted once when they're there 4 nights, if they're from out of town. And have each day they stay is an impact on a 4-day event if they're there for all 4 days. Instead of counting them just once when they've got at least 4 room nights, shouldn't they be counted 4 times for each day they're there? This is for next year. If that makes sense, since we're talking about attendees that may be there 4 nights. Some of them local, they live here, not much of an impact from a tourism standpoint, but the tourists that are here, if they're here for a 1-day event, they may be here 1 or 2 nights. If they're here for a 4-day event and they're all 4 days, they may be there for 4 or 5 nights. So I'm thinking that there's a room night impact based on whether it's a 1-day event or a 4-day event, and if there's repeat attendees that are from out of town, they should be perhaps be counted as an attendee each time they come. And having said that, I will commend the staff for weeding their way through all this to figure out a good way to split out that $3 million. I think it's fantastic, and I'm glad that they were able to come to something that made sense. But as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking for next year that maybe we should address each out-of-town attendee for each day they're here, as opposed to one attendee being here for 4 days for a 4-day event. And how you figure all that out, I don't know.
Yeah, that's certainly something that we could talk to the data team on. The difficulty runs into if it's a 1-day event, how do you know somebody didn't come earlier and stay the night or stay the night after? So you'd have to determine how long those folks are staying for. And if it's a multi-day festival, how do you know that they stayed for more than one of those 4 days? So is it, again, I don't know the capabilities of our technology if we can break it down that granular, but it's certainly something that we'd look into.
You know, the 1-day events like the Clearwater Offshore Nationals, they do have boats practicing the day before. People come in for the whole weekend. And if we're only counting Sunday when the race occurs, that's kind of an injustice.
That particular event isn't considered a 1-day event.
Okay.
That's, we count multiple days because they've got trials going on, practices, so they get the full time the show's in town.
And as you discussed, you and I discussed that it's compared to the other 3 weekends of that month to see what the influx is and the true difference, which makes a lot of sense. So, all right, I didn't realize, I was thinking it was a 1-day. So anyway, I think you get the idea of what I'm trying to get across. Thank you.
Thank you. But Dylan?
So, sorry, just bringing this back up again. So as far as going back and trying to get more funding allocated towards this and utilizing some of our surplus, because I think this relates back to our earlier conversation about infrastructure and trying to let residents kind of benefit from this TDTs. These events are not only attended by tourists, it's residents take advantage of this as well. And I think this is a big, I think, draw to our area, and not only a draw for tourists, but also a draw for people who like to live here because we do a lot of cool things, and there's a lot of cool things to do. So I would like to see us try to not cut funding to some of these folks. And I understand some of these events potentially might not benefit from that. Maybe the event is happening in September, October, but I can't imagine this full list of events it would be in that time frame, right? I would imagine some would benefit if we were able to try to expedite increase of funding and try to more fully fund this project. So I would like to see that this board have that conversation about potentially going after more funding.
Chuck?
Thank you, Chair. I agree with Dylan, but there's some good folks behind us in the gallery that want to speak on this. So I think we can continue this portion of the discussion after they impact what we're going to talk about, because they have a lot of things to tell us about their festivals. So
I understand. I just want to make sure that the board has any questions right now, and then we can jump to that and then come back for further discussions. Anything else right now for, okay.
Can I make one comment? So Dylan, to your point, if we fully funded every project at the category that they're eligible in, we would need another $355,000. So the budget would need to be increased by that amount, 355.
And that was 100% my intention, not to fund what they requested, but fund, if they're eligible, let's fully fund them.
Yep.
Okay. Tracy, do we have, how many folks do we have? Just, how many do we have? Two people, okay. All right, we're going to try to limit those conversations to 3 minutes. I have a little authority, a discretion to make it a little bit more, but let's try to keep the comments specific and directed, so please. And please introduce yourself and all of that good stuff. And can you keep a tab on the time? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I failed to raise my hand earlier when you asked for general comments because I figured we would have a chance to do that, so I apologize. I should have done that.
Nope, sorry.
My name is Keith Overton. I own OCC Roadhouse and Museum. I formerly was a principal at Tradewinds. I've been in this tourist market for 35 years, and I'm one of the guys that is impacted from the disproportionary cuts on categories 3 through 5. And what I'm asking for is sort of a level playing field here. I appreciate the hard task of getting this refunded or additional funding by going back to the BCC, but I don't disagree with Dylan's point about the fact that you could do this simultaneously. You could make some adjustments to it now, and I'll make one recommendation for that, and then you could come back, and if that funding is available, anybody that hasn't been funded yet would be the beneficiary of that. And candidly, you could even do it in arrears for people that have already had their event. If the money comes later, there's no reason that you can't reallocate that to them based on the new funding levels. But one thing that concerns me the most is there are a lot of events that are new that are coming in here that are unproven. We don't know how they're going to do. We give them the benefit of the doubt that they're going to do well, but I think it's a little unfair to take money from a 7 or 10-year event that's hit its numbers every year, it's done well, and to reallocate dollars to an event that we yet don't know if it's going to produce or not. That's one point that I would make. The second point that I would make is if the DQ categories, the areas that the funds that weren't funded that went to 50% on that rule, maybe the answer is let them roll out, and when those funds become available, then the new entries get to utilize those funds at that time. I mean, that's one suggestion that you could handle it in that way. The last point that I'll make is, and this is really more of about, I'm concerned about the accuracy of Placer AI. If the event is in a public location, let's just say it's on Clearwater Beach, and I'm just making that up hypothetically, how do we know that 50% of those people that are there with the phone pings aren't tourists that are there anyway for other reasons, but they just happen to be enjoying the boat races as an example, right? I think that's something that you ought to look into. It's somewhat unrelated to this, but it does factor into the overall categorization of the attendees that are at these events. And so my comments are simply that. I think we should massage it a little bit and take those things into consideration. And Mr. Chair, I appreciate you giving me a few minutes of the meeting's time today to make those points.
Thank you for your comments, Steve. Thank you. Kathy, I'm not sure what, I don't want to take a stab at your name, so you can do that when you get up there. Welcome.
Thank you. It's Kathy Hayduke, City of Treasure Island Parks and Recreation Director, and we do standing ovations now in our 17th annual event. However, 18 years we did have to cancel in 2024 due to the hurricanes. I agree both with the gentleman to my right has said and Dylan. We are an event that has been sponsored and a wonderful partner with Visit St. Pete Clearwater for years. I do kind of question as well the data from Placer AI because we were listed in 2025 as 29,800 visitors with approximately 14,000 tourists, but that was only our main weekend. We do have an encore weekend that we started in 2022, and I have hired destination analysts and Street One Level both years to give me additional numbers, and we have approximately another 20,000, but we're being looked at by the main weekend only. So we are a free event. We are non-ticketed. We have been free for 17 years. We use tax dollars to pay for our events, so sponsorships are important to us. So for us to lose 27,000 is a lot of money. So I would just hope that you would do something that has been suggested today by some of the members to look into help some of us events. I know I am equal with the Bike Fest. We run the same weekend, so I understand where he's coming from as well. So thank you for your consideration. If you could do anything possible, we would appreciate it.
Thank you, Kathy. That's all the comments, right, Tracy? Good. Okay. Thank you. All right. So we'll reconvene the conversation. Anybody thoughts? Dylan?
Based on the comments, Mr. Overton made a good point of, so your concern, Brian, about potentially if we did increase funding, potentially some of those events wouldn't get the increase in funding in time. But if that is something that looks like it's going to happen or being discussed, potentially we could reach out to those event coordinators and say, hey, this is a potential discussion. They could forecast and plan for that and then hopefully that increase of funding to come through and fund them in the rears. And then any events that haven't happened would receive their full event funding as well. So I think that really was a great idea and another additional comment to the conversation.
I think if you all were to go that route, again, this will still need to go to the Board of County Commissioners. So I think I would still look for a funding recommendation with those comments that we would share with the BCC. I don't know if because if the BCC doesn't go with that, then we got to come back here. Sorry, I ran out of time.
Phew.
I think we'd like a recommendation from this board, and then we will add, if that's the direction, we will add that, notate that to the Board of County Commissioners. But I don't want to go to the Board of County Commissioners, and I'm not saying they would, but if they went a different direction, we'd have to come back here and ask for a recommendation again.
And to that point, if we could maybe get by category the additional funds from what we're recommending versus what the ask was. I think you said it was 355 for all of them? Mm-hmm. And did that include the last category as well, the 50% rule category?
Yes, it did.
So if you could break that down by category, that would be great, just to see what that impact of the different levels is. If we, to the ask of additional funds. That's, Dylan, go ahead.
Yeah, just to Brian's point, I think we could structure, I don't know, this is a question for you, but could we structure our vote today, our recommendation today? Because I hear what you're saying. We don't want to go to the BCC, them not agree, and then have to come back, and then everybody's in trouble. In my head, I think we could structure it as, hey, we propose to fully fund these events without the reduction. So we would need an increase of funds of $355,000. If that wasn't approved by the BCC, we would just simply communicate to them that, hey, if you guys don't agree with this, we'll go with staff recommendation that's already outlined here. So that way there's an automatic fallback and doesn't require it to come back. Is that possible?
I think so. Yes, I think so.
Yeah, and I don't know what our OMB analyst is hearing stuff, so I don't know what their thoughts might be in just a minute on that. And the only category and again, conceptually, I'm understanding what we're talking about here. The category at the end, which is if the premise is that they didn't qualify and we're trying to give them a kind of a gentle step out. I mean, we may want to look at that a little differently than the other categories, but again, I'm not trying to parse things here, but the other categories, it wasn't about not qualifying. It was just about living within a budget. the last category was about not qualifying. And so maybe that's the category we leave as recommended, just thinking through it, but we can talk further about that. So any luck on that yet? You're almost there.
Under the gun here.
I'm just trying to get a sense of what those different, the category 3, 4, 5, and then the last did not qualify category.
Yes, so I'm showing for category 2, the only increase there would be for the Red Bull cliff diving. So that would take it to 100,000 even. So that's 2,500.
Which one? I'm sorry, which one?
Sorry, number 12 in category 2.
Okay. So you would add the $2,300?
$2,500.
25, excuse me.
To get to their full request of 100,000.
Is that the only one in category 2?
It is.
Okay.
So that's the easy one.
Yeah.
Category 3, Clearwater Offshore Nationals would increase by 12,500. The others would increase,
Do you have a total?
no, apologies, I'm thinking out loud here.
This is unfair, I know.
Yeah, no worries. I'm showing 147,500
Okay.
for category 3. There's 6 events in category.
Well, you can go, keep working on that. We can maybe continue having some discussion here. Dylan, go ahead.
Yeah, to your question, the category, the white category, the 50%, they're locked in, so I'm not suggesting changing that
So
at
we're
all.
just talking 3, 4, and 5?
Yes.
Well, 2, 3, 4, and 5, yeah.
That's half.
2 has
half
just
the
one
amount.
item.
That's
Yes.
175.
Yes. And so I would propose a motion that we recommend to the BCC to fully fund those who are qualified. So the
Understand.
categories 3, 4, 5, and the 1 in category 2.
Yeah, and I
And then add the caveat to that motion that if the BCC does not agree, go with the staff recommendation as a default.
All right, and I just wanted, before we.
I'm proposing that
Yeah, I
motion, not making
understand.
it.
And I just really wanted to see what that looked like by category. So that's what he's working on. The motion, is there a second?
Second.
Oh,
I was
This is
proposing the
proposed
motion because I didn't want to cut you off, Chair.
Proposing the motion, okay, we'll
Yes.
hold off then.
But I will make that motion when you're ready, Chair.
Okay.
I just wanted one point of clarification that you're proposing the funding maximum, not the funding request.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Just wanted
what
to
they
make sure.
qualify for under the staff recommendations in our things.
So
Yes,
there's no disputing the category in which staff has placed any. I just want to make that.
Exactly.
Put that out there that if we're going with that, then we're inherently not disputing the categories in which these events have fallen according to staff recommendations.
Absolutely not.
And we're just
Understood.
looking at the funding max versus the funding
Correct.
recommendation.
The funding maximum column, not the funding request column.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Chair. Dylan, I'm all for that motion, but can you, when you make it, can we make a separate motion on the backup rather than attach it? Because I think there's still conversation to be had to where we might be able to make it a little bit better. I don't know, but I would prefer it be separate, and I think it's a little cleaner that way, rather than attach the backup to that motion to ask BCC to increase the funding. I'm all for that. I would just prefer that it be detached rather than attached.
Open to that friendly amendment.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry.
I think
Yeah, go
Amanda
ahead,
wants to.
Amanda?
Yeah, sorry, I just want to jump in. Before we do anything, the tourist development plan currently limits us to $3 million.
Right.
So the first motion should be
Right.
a motion to amend the plan to increase it to whatever amount we want to make the new limit for this year.
Then you vote on a $3 million.
And then you do the next step. So just want to make sure that we get that,
That's
a
what
very
I was
important
like-
part of it done first.
Okay.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Chuck. Go ahead, Chuck. I'll come
Thank
to
you, Chair.
Dave.
So we started this conversation back a few minutes ago when we were on capital funding. First, Brian, thank you. The staff did an excellent job with this number of 63 applicants. That's a lot to process. So Thank you. We at this board realize how much work that was. Secondly, you were tasked at the May meeting with a budget, and you were tasked to keep a level budget as you were last year from county leadership. And we appreciate that. But our tourism keeps growing, more events, more things, but we're tasked to spend this money on tourism. And it's been proven over and over again, it's a great return on our investment. We collect bed tax, we take that bed tax, we reinvest in future tourists, and we get the bed tax back plus in all kinds of areas. And so with that, we're sitting on $178.2 million that we're not spending on marketing our destination, which will get us back a lot more than $178.2 million. So we're missing arguably somewhere between $2,112,500 out of this request, because that's the funding requested, or 300 and something thousand that we're trying to figure out that we underfunded for recommendations because we had to stop at $3 million. So I'm all in favor, and I've said it since I've been on this board, events are great marketing tools. People come to this destination for any number of these 63 events, for whatever reasons are, and they spend money. They spend money on tickets to that event. They spend money on hotels, which is what we're here to talk about. They spend money on gas and rental cars and airplane tickets and foods in our restaurants and drinks at our bar. And that's why we're here, is to promote tourism. So to cut these folks off behind us that are trying to help us with this tourism, and how many of these 63 events that qualified, 63 applicants, whatever the number was that qualified, are now not going to be able to have their events because, okay, well, you took a 20% haircut and it cost you $10,000 out of your budget. They don't have $10,000. So they look at their little boards and say, what are we going to do? And they say, well, we just can't do it this year, folks, sorry. So they just close it and they don't request your money. I don't want to see that happen. So I'm all in favor of Dylan's request to fund these folks and make a one-time, which I'm not ready to do yet, a proposed, as Amanda mentioned, to do a one-time requested amendment to our budget. But of course, we need a number, and I'm waiting for more dialogue from y'all. Why is it not $2,112,000? So Brian, I'm sure you'll weigh in very quickly on what are we not going to fund of the $5,112,500 requested with a cap of $3 million? Is it that number? Is it $350,000? And let's talk through that.
Yeah, I think it'd be closer to that 350,000 number. The 5.1 million figure is simply what they requested. And you'll notice that, I won't say many, but a number of events may have requested more than they qualify for. So that's why that number is so much higher. It also includes funding, it also includes the requested funding for ineligible projects and projects that did not meet qualifications that we're not recommending any funding for.
Makes sense. Okay. I am going to make a motion, if it's all right, to amend our budget, as Amanda Coffey suggested, is the first thing we have to do, by the requested amount by the applicants, that Craig is going to give us that number.
Hold on, I want to make sure
Yes.
we're clear, because you said requested, we talked about funding maximum. It's a different number. Not the funding recommendation. There's three different numbers. One was a funding request, the second one was a funding maximum, which we've been talking about, versus the recommendation. So the discussion has been to go give people what they were, the funding maximum, and that's what we talked about a minute ago. You're talking
Correct.
about a funding, going to the funding request level?
No, not the funding request level of $5,112,500. No, because that's not, either doesn't qualify, as Brian just explained.
So we're talking about funding maximum.
I believe Mr. Prather was talking about the tourist development plan cap, correct?
Correct.
Increasing.
How much? And what's the basis?
Yeah, we're calculating still.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. So do we have the breakout finished yet on
I
categories?
think I'm ready, yep. And my initial estimate looks like it was slightly off. That was also a rough estimate. So I'm looking at category 2 would be an increase of 2,500. Category 3 would be an increase of 147,500. Category 4, an increase of 100,000. In category 5, an increase of 117,500. And that's a grand total of 367,500.
Okay. And then we leave the DNQ group as recommended, using the 50% rule. And this is all compared between the recommended amount and the maximum funding, or the funding maximum that's on this handout. That's what you're...
There's a couple scenarios here. So for instance, number 13, holiday lights in the gardens, they requested 40,000, yet they qualify for up to 150,000. So our recommendation is to keep that at 40.
Okay.
So they would not get the full 150.
Well, they're not
get
yet.
Their
There's
full
not-
request.
In other words, we're not going to give them what they didn't ask for. They asked for 40. They qualified for 150, but we're going to give them the 40 that they asked for. That makes sense, right? I mean, okay. All right.
All right, so if you go to number 28, the barbecue festival, they asked for 50, and right below it, they asked for 50. One was awarded 20, and one was awarded 12.5. Obviously, they had a different weighting. So if we're just going to give everybody in this category the full 25, what's the point in scoring them individually? It seems, I'm trying to figure out, is there a reason why why they didn't, or one qualified for more money than the other?
Yeah, great flag there. So 27 and 28 qualify at the category 5 level, but their 50% rule would be enforced there. Correct. So Barbecue Fest received 40,000 last year. So we would recommend 20,000.
So I know we're trying to figure this out, and I appreciate the public comments, because I do think there's, and so I just did some math, and I'm just throwing this out there, and I'm not trying to throw another curveball, but I do think there's some weight to events that have been here. Chuck, I think this is to your point, and I'm not trying to take away from new events, but I think there is there's some weight to events that have been a part of this program already in comparison to new. And so if you look in sections 3, 4, and 5, it's 282.5 thousand of delta between what the recommendation was and how they got lowered based on the percentage from staff. Okay, so 282.5. If you took away the new events, it's just taking away, again, I'm not saying that's what we should do, I'm just giving you the example. You could blend it also. But if you took away the new events, it'd be 245,000. So you'd have a delta of 37.5, so 37,500, which essentially means if you spread that across all events, essentially $2,700 per event would be the delta if you gave the new funding, new event funding, to the events that have already been a part of the program in categories 3, 4, and 5. To me, that's the backup. Because if you get the funding, you don't have to worry about that. New events come on. If we don't get the funding from BCC, we keep the events that have been here a part of it, and then next year we go and get the increase, and we bring on the new events. That seems to me to be the most equitable way to do this that I've at least heard so far. That way, there's a very small haircut to each event in categories 2, 3, 4, and 5, not 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we've got that as the backup, because if Chuck's motion passes, then you don't even have to worry about that anymore. So I was doing Dias math. I think that all works out. I'm hoping somebody will back me up. But it just seems like a really easy way to say, let's go after all the funding. Everybody gets what they not applied for, but what they will qualify for. Thank you. Diddy. And then if not, then we prioritize events that have been a part of the program. Just an idea. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, I'm going to be a short time. I've got 1 minute left.
Okay.
So you're going to be in charge here.
Okay. I agree with Copley's suggestion and definitely hear the point. I hope it doesn't come to that. Hopefully,
so, too.
I hope our original motion. So I'm going to go back to what Mr. Prather was trying to do and go ahead and make that motion. So I'd like to make a motion to amend our tourist development plan 1 year to be $3,367,500.
Second.
Council, are we okay? Mike, please.
Yeah, I just have a question for you, Brian. I think you had a concern if we didn't approve at least what was proposed today tentatively, then that could delay the funding for some events that would happen before the BOC considered this, our recommendation that we amend the plan. So does this motion now, are we going to have a follow-up to this to approve at least what's been presented so that we don't delay funding for some events?
I'd look to the county attorney on that.
Yeah, I mean, when you make the motions, they don't have to be enacted chronologically, so you can make your subsequent motions contingent on the board approving the additional funding for the 1 year. So the plan will now have a line in it that says for 2027 fiscal year, we're authorizing this, but it'll remain a $3 million cap for the future. So just be aware of that. So next year in this discussion, we'll be back to 3 million. So no, you can just make your motions contingent on the availability of funds and what the board decides. You should be fine.
Yeah, I think you may have, in order for us literally to do that, for those steps to occur, because we're going to have to bring the plan here, we're going to have to take the plan to the BCC, there may be an event or two that occurs before we have an agreement with them. So they would have to know that I don't see why they would have an issue with that, but that's just something I want to make clear going into it, is that you may have events receiving our funds and we don't have an agreement with them prior to their event occurring, 1 or 2.
That's my concern, is that we don't do something here that jeopardizes some of these early events. They need an answer. They need to know at least what they're going to get. So the request I support for the additional funding, but I think we should at least approve what's been recommended here in addition to that with the request for the additional amounts, but at least approve this to give these events some certainty and that they know they will have at least the amount we approved today coming.
Amanda, would this motion suffice as not, if we would not have to bring the plan back to this board? I'm hearing it right now if this motion were to carry.
Yes.
So that would only require us to advertise and take that to the BCC.
Correct.
Okay, so that might shorten the timeline. We may be able to get on a second meeting in August, potentially, and we'd have an answer then. It's cutting it real close, but.
Call for the vote. Although, do we need them by person, or can we just call for the vote? Okay? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Thank you. Hang on just a
Mr.
second.
Chair?
Do I have another motion we have to do on top of the one we just
Excuse
did?
me, Mr. Chair? Can you clarify who the seconder was on
Me.
that ultimate motion?
Me.
You, okay, thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Yeah, so the motion that just passed was to increase the tourist development plan amount for elite events for 1 year. So now we would need to take up the motion, which I think was
spend the $3
proposed
million.
previously, to approve the staff's,
Recommend.
right, approve it at the maximum funding amount available, assuming that the tourist development plan is amended, otherwise to approve staff's recommendation. Right?
Okay. Dylan first, you said something?
I would like to make the motion that Amanda just stated.
Second.
Okay. Copley?
Okay, so we're going to go with staff recommendations and not what I was talking about.
My intention is to fully fund these events with what they qualify for based on staff recommendations. And my understanding, to your point, was we're going to try to attempt that. And then if BCC doesn't accept that, we can't get the plan amended, then we're going to fall back to your motion. And your suggestion was to keep them separate.
Yeah.
So we just increased the plan.
That's your,
We just increased the plan. Now we need to make a motion to actually fund these events. And then we'll follow up with your motion.
so we're making 3 separate.
Yes.
Okay. Got it. I misunderstood. I apologize.
Yeah, so I would just make clear that staff's recommendation is not part of any of those motions.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Second Dylan's motion.
We're voting on number 2 of this motion. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes. Number 3.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Okay, so Bruce Rector, I'd like to know where you stand on my proposed changes to staff recommendations, if I could, Vice Chair. Because I think you're the only one that I've heard not chime in and only stay on staff recommendations, and that's important to me.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I really agree with what Mr. Prather said, that, we've got plenty of money to be spending for the reserves, what they are, all these events, I also compliment the staff. Every year, this is a very difficult thing for all of us, but including them, to go through, and we've all been to many of these events. They're fantastic events, but, to try to figure out which ones actually impact tourists and not, and the Placer AI has been very helpful in kind of determining that. We've learned a lot. Perception versus what appears to be reality. But I'm fine with what you proposed. I think that's fine.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, Acting Chair. I am going to also make a motion in support of Copley's that if the new plan is not approved by the BCC, which we just put forward, then we are not recommending any new events for this fiscal year in the financial jeopardy of existing past, previous elite events, because they're the ones that are suffering taking this haircut in favor of the new events on the board.
Could I clarify before you do that? Any new events, there are Category 1 events that are new, and I believe he was and Category 2, I believe he was suggesting lower, so I just wanted clarification on that.
Okay, so you want to withdraw your motion, Chuck?
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll move to move forward with a $3 million allocation and make amendment to staff recommendation that in categories 3, 4, and 5, there are no new events, and that we fund all current events to the levels and equally share the delta, which is approximately $2,700 across. Is that clear enough, legal? Okay, so.
I'm sorry, I don't quite understand, and I think it's going to conflict with the second vote we just took, so we might need to unwind.
Friendly amendment,
Yeah.
because he was intending if it doesn't pass.
If it doesn't pass.
So the second amendment that we just voted on was if it doesn't pass, we go with staff recommendations.
see,
So
that
if
was
that
my-
is not what we want,
That was my worry.
we need to unwind that, and I apologize.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't catch you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I'm a little confused. So you're saying take the money from categories 1 and 2?
No. No. Categories 1 and 2 stay the same. Categories 2, 3, and 4, there are no new additional events. And that funding, that staff recommendations for new events, then goes to the current events, which then leaves a delta of approximately $2,700 per event that had a decrease based on staff's recommendation. So rather than we'll just use Clearwater Offshore Nationals number 14. Rather than there be a $62,500 decrease in funding, there would be a $2,700 decrease in funding.
Because Haunted
I'm spread-
Fest
I'm
and ABPA would not be funded.
Correct.
Okay.
But I think we have to unwind the second
Okay.
amendment to do that.
I thought we had it right. That's my bad.
It's okay.
Yeah, I think all of you voted in the affirmative, so I think any of you can make a motion to bring that back up.
I would like to make a motion to bring back that amendment, or that motion we just passed, and reevaluate it.
Does the second agree?
Second.
Withdraw. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now progress.
All right, I would like to make a motion that based on our amended plan, our tourist development plan, we would like to fully fund the events based on their qualifications. I'm looking to Amanda. All right. That works?
While excluding funding for new events in category 3 through 5.
No, my intention, because we adjusted the plan by making it 3,300,055,500 or whatever it was. And now I'm trying to make a motion to fund all these events at that level. And then if that is not accepted by the BCC, we're going to go with Copley's motion as a backup, which is not funding new events and making sure the events that are existing have very small haircuts. That's the intention. How we word that, I'm looking to you, Amanda.
I think your wording initially was right, approving the elite events to be funded at the funding maximum contingent on the TDC, the TDP being amended. Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's the, and then we'll hit
And
that
then
as
we
a
go.
third, we'll make yours a third
Yeah.
motion. Okay, yes.
Second.
I got first, and I got a second on the motion. Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It passes.
Do I have to repeat mine all over again? Okay. I'll make a motion. Do I need to state if BCC does not approve? So if BCC does not approve the plan change and the proposed funding to the plan change, that we amend staff's current recommendations in categories 3, 4, and 5 to not fund any new events and have that funding be then given to current events. So each current event that was taking a decrease only takes a decrease of approximately $2,700, and there's going to be some decimal points. Is that okay?
That's a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Dillon. Comments? Mayor?
No?
Comment, Chuck?
If we take, as the motion is stated, and put all of the past previous events at fully staff recommended funding. And
Eligible funding.
eligible funding. Will that take up all of the $3 million, or will there still be a surplus? So my question is, if there's a new event and you've only spent $2,800,000 and there's $200,000 left over, my question is, Are you spending all $3 million if you get rid of all
Yes.
new events?
Yes. Yeah, by my math, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Call for the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
That's my crazy
No more.
dais, man.
Thank you.
I do that on city council.
Excuse me, if we can, let's take 5 minutes, and then we'll come back, because we got a long agenda yet to go. Hit it.
Hey, good. How are you?
Phil, Chuck. Take care. Do we have we don't have any other votes today, so noted that we don't have a quorum. I think we don't have one now. Okay. Let's go ahead and get started, and we're going to go on to Eddie with the metrics. If we can, let's note also that there'll be no more votes today because we do not have a quorum, but we shouldn't have to have any votes, so we're fine, so we won't have to delay anything. Eddie, please go ahead.
Great, thank you. And hopefully there won't be as many questions as the previous couple of presentations. So because we didn't get a chance to meet the last month, we wanted to revisit some of the spring numbers that we shared in last month's kind of emailed report with you guys and take those a step deeper and try to really understand, not just the impact that we saw, but also some of the reasons for the changes that we've seen this year compared to the previous couple of years. So to kind of recap, through February, March, April, we saw over $36 million in TDT collections over that period. That marks a 7.7% increase above the previous year and nearly a 3.5% increase over fiscal year 2024. We really saw a strong April, which kind of helped really encapsulate our strong performance for February, March, and April. So, kind of looking at some of the reasons for what happened and some other visitor trends that we saw during that time period, there's really kind of 5 remarks I'd like to make. Visitors and hotel revenue returned from a lot of the key markets that we saw. There's a couple of scales of hotel performance that we saw, whereas our upscale and our kind of mid-tier hotels really grew in different ways. Our vacation rental revenue, as well as the rates, increased compared to previous years. We also saw some changes in our travel party composition, as well as more visitors that traveled to our destination for special events. So what a timely topic that we just discussed. So as we kind of look at purely visitation from our top 10 markets this year, what we saw was nearly all markets grew compared to the previous year. That includes our Florida markets, such as Tampa, Orlando, Miami, as well as a number of our key out-of-state markets, including New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, Atlanta, Boston. We did not see it grow compared to 2024, but we did see our Florida markets grow significantly compared to 2024. As we look at the hotel revenue from our top 10 markets this year, we saw, again, that same growth in contrast to fiscal year 2025, where nearly all markets grew except for Tampa, which is not surprising. We still had hotel displacement in a number of these months from Tampa Bay. But you'll note that even though we had some decreased visitation in places like New York City as well as Detroit, we still saw a significant increase in the hotel revenue from those markets. And virtually, all markets except for a couple, Atlanta and Chicago, saw year-over-year growth from fiscal year 2024 when it comes to the hotel revenue. So kind of explaining a little bit as to why that happened, there's really kind of 2 things. And as we looked at the data from kind of different levels of our hotels, kind of our upscale revenue, which is typically, if you're paying about $350 a night, you're kind of in that upscale hotel for our destination. What we saw was those rates continued to increase over these past couple of years. And as a result, we've seen more hotel revenue from the upscale level of hotels that we have. A little bit of a different story is in the mid-tier. So this is closer to around $200 a night kind of rooms. And what we saw here was a supply that has gone up from the past couple of years, which has also brought up demand from the past couple of years. So while we didn't have an increase in rate in this level of hotel, we have seen an increase in demand, again, along with an increase in supply. The other thing that we've seen, and this is kind of interesting, so what we looked at was the largest sample of vacation rentals that we could get, and we can get some data from key data scraped off of Airbnb to see the number of active properties across Airbnb for our destination. What we've seen is the past couple of years, the actual number of active monthly properties on Airbnb has gone down in our destination, yet we've had a greatly increased rate over the past couple of years, which has gone from nearly $300 in 2024 to over $380 in 2026. So we're definitely seeing a growth in vacation rental revenue because of that increased rate. Finally, just a couple of things that we've noticed in visitor trends that we're paying attention to. We've seen that couples are no longer traveling alone, or at least they're not traveling as much alone as the previous couple of years. So groups of friends and groups of couples, that has gone up compared to the past couple of years, whereas that a percentage of couples has gone down, and we've seen a little bit of up and down from the immediate family. But again, we've really seen this groups of people in our destination as a rising trend. The other thing that we've seen, which I think is significant, and obviously we saw for people's primary reason to visit a return, and that being vacations from the previous year. That's great to see. But a little bit more significant, even though it's a smaller statistic, is the special events and concerts, which is up to nearly 12% in 2026 over this time period. That's pretty significant. We've not seen that except for in 2019 in the past about 8 years. So that's really an increase that we're paying attention to. And again, as we've talked about how important these events are for our destination, it's no surprise to see that percentage has actually gone up. So that was a little bit of a spring recap. Now continuing on into May, our latest TDT data, we have seen a record this year of $9.5 million in TDT collections for the month of May. Our previous record was fiscal year 2024, which was 8.5 million. So we've seen a significant increase this year, continuing from the positive news that we saw over spring. And I believe, as Brian has remarked, if you look at the first 5 months of this calendar year, I believe 4 of those 5 have been record months for us. And looking at our area and the different communities, compared to fiscal year 2025, we're virtually up in all of our communities. Indian Rocks Beach being the outlier, but still that's only a difference of about 1.75%. Compared to fiscal year 2024, we're also seeing sustained growth, especially in St. Petersburg and Clearwater Beach. We are also paying attention to, of course, some of those areas where, we've seen some growth compared to last year, but they're not quite what they were in fiscal year 2024. St. Pete Beach and Treasure Island being those significant contributors of TDT. In terms of some of the other visitor metrics to kind of color the month of May, we've had just over 3 million visitors that have visited Pinellas County and stayed at least 90 minutes in our destination. That is up 9.7% from last year, essentially flat from the year before, an increase of 0.7%. Our hotel occupancy has remained very steady, hovering around 72%. Small increases from the previous couple of years. Our hotel rate is right around $200 a night, which again is small increases from the past couple of years. Our vacation rental occupancy and our vacation rental ADR have had significant growth from those past couple of years. Again, we have had fewer listings in our area, so that does help with that occupancy level kind of increasing, but positive things to note. And then in terms of our visitor origin metrics, they remain consistent with the past couple of years, but in the month of May, we really see our Florida markets, kind of starting to make up some of the top markets in our area. Tampa Bay, Orlando, Miami are 3 of the top 4 of those markets. And then we continue to see, though, out-of-state markets here as well. New York City, Atlanta, Chicago, DC, Dallas, those all remain in the top 10 for the month of May. I want to just point out that this is a small sample of direct data from our vacation rental providers that provide that data into Key Data. So kind of take this with a grain of salt. But what you'll notice here is a lot of our Midwest markets and Florida markets still choosing vacation rentals as some of the top places in the month of May. And of course, there's some anomalies here too. Someone in Palm Harbor must have been having a family reunion or something going on there. And then this is to just kind of encapsulate where we are from fiscal year to date. So it's been about 8 months into our fiscal year. What we've seen is nearly 11.6, almost 11.7 million total visitors. Compared to fiscal year 2025, that's an increase of 11%. It's actually still a little lower than fiscal year 2024, but we've seen our TDT at reach over 71.2 million, which is an increase from both years. So because of that increased rate that we've noted and seen from some areas, we still have a kind of record number of TDT compared to our most recent years of data. Our hotel occupancy is good. It's hard to compare it against fiscal year 2025 because we had a lot of hurricane displacement. But when you look at it compared to a normal year, we're right there. We're 1% over fiscal year 2024. Our ADR again is right almost where we were with fiscal year 2025, but an increase from 2024. Our vacation rental occupancy, an increase from both years, and our vacation rental ADR, again, an increase from both years. So as we kind of look towards the rest of the year and where we're going, noting that we've had a pretty good year so far, I think the momentum is going to continue. By all our data records, the month of June was a pretty strong month for us. We're in the middle of July. It also looks like it's going to be a pretty good month for us. April, September, October, and into November, those are still a little, too soon to tell, but in terms of pacing, it's right on with where we have been, right in between kind of fiscal year 25 and 2024. I will note that we've seen a shorter booking window this year, so we do expect, there to be room for greater numbers than what we're seeing from this early pacing data. And the story is much the same for our vacation rental data too. We're seeing this pacing kind of match where we were with fiscal year 2024. Again, noting that there is a little bit of a shorter booking window this year compared to our previous couple of years. So it could be that, this year it surpasses 2024. It's within that realm of possibility. With that, that's my presentation. Again, hopefully not as many questions as the lead events, but happy to take anything you guys have.
So one question I had is you talked about the origin metrics, taking that with a grain of salt. What is the sample size, or do you have that?
Yeah, so we have about 110 to 120 property managers for our vacation rental sample, and it feeds roughly about 2,300 properties themselves. So it's, again, when we're looking at our destination, which has, anywhere between 15 to 19,000 vacation rentals. It's a smaller sample, but it is the sample that we can see for an origin market perspective. Mm-hmm. So we still want to look at that data, but we do have to kind of take it with a measured response. We're not, for instance, marketing to Irvine, California. That is more likely sort of a data protected kind of sample. So,
Understandable.
Yeah.
No, I would just say that I know we're dropping like flies, and we've got a bunch of friends in the audience that have come here this morning to present to you all. So I just want to assure them that those that were not in attendance today are watching online. They're just not physically located in Pinellas County right now, and I know that the public's watching as well. So with that, I would like to introduce our agency that is here today. I believe they're hooked. Are you hooked up on the laptop? No? Oh, I saw you over there with the laptop, so I figured the presentation. So maybe Vanessa will come up to the podium and drive. But yeah, we've had the agency, we've had Envision It on board now for almost a year, and so they've been working hard. And they're in town this week for a planning session. All of our agencies are, and we thought it was a great opportunity for them to get before you and talk a little beach culture.
Okay, great. It is working. Good morning, almost afternoon, everyone. I'm Vanessa Grippo from Envision It. I'm joined here by my colleagues Amber and Matt. I had the pleasure of meeting some of you back in October when our engagement started with the Visit St. Pete Clearwater team. Had some nice conversations with all of you. And since then, we've been working hand in hand with the Visit St. Pete Clearwater team, along with agency partners as well, on a lot of really fun and exciting things. I think that some of you might have heard murmurs. You've seen even on the screen something called beach culture around here. So some of you may know had some teasers on what we've been up to, and we're here to kind of share with you a little bit of update on what we're doing to help promote both the awareness and visitation to the county. So very excited to share with you kind of what we've been up to with the team, in addition to kind of grounding us all in the why we've been doing this as well. Of course, the main why is to generate the awareness and visitation, but then also why what Amber is going to be showing you makes the most sense here. And that is the tourism marketing right now it's drowning, pun intended. Oh, sorry. Which way? Oh, sorry, everybody. I thought that was. It's drowning in a sea of sameness, right? You're going to see an ad for someone on a beach here, someone on a beach there, and you don't necessarily know where they are and what destination they're marketing. And I think that what we're trying to do here is that point of differentiation. What makes St. Pete Clearwater a destination worth visiting? And we all know, and I've stepped my bare feet on your beautiful sugar white sand, and that is amazing. But there's so much more to this community that is worth sharing with the world, and that's your point of differentiation. That is your culture. That is everything that makes people want to come here, and we want to share that secret with the world. So that's a really big part of why we're doing what we're doing, and ensuring that we're sharing that messaging with the unique individuals that we want to target, and then also sharing those messages with those interests and behaviors that make the most sense. So we've been up to a lot. And kind of, this is months of work. We've been doing media strategy and planning. We've done multiple shoots, video shoots and photo shoots, along with taking those assets that we've been doing and making those into the beautiful things that Amber will show you. We've been working with agency partner Miles Media on landing page development. We're not sending one person that clicks on an ad to the same landing page as another person because they have different travel interests and motivations. So a lot of work in collaboration with them as well, because we want to make sure the story we're telling is relevant to the people that are seeing what it is that is unique about St. Pete and that is uniquely interesting to them as well. So I did reference those shoots. We've been to over 40 locations within the county. We've had this is just a small smattering of some of the imagery that we were able to capture. There's thousands of images. It's very exciting, and it's beautiful, and it makes it easier for Amber and the team to storytell, so it's wonderful. I believe I'm going to kick it over to Matt to talk about the rationale around how we're launching and why we're launching, and I'll give that over to you, so thank you.
So as Vanessa alluded to, we've been working on this campaign for months. Ideally, we want to roll it out in 2 separate phases. The first, and what's going on right now, you may have already seen some activations in your day-to-day lives going through digital, or at the airport, we saw some boards as well, is to cultivate local advocacy. A huge percentage of visitors to Pinellas County come from the surrounding area, from Tampa, from across Florida. We want to make sure that we are reaching those audiences first with this message, ensuring that the message is resonating, that people agree with it, and that we build that excitement for this campaign as we move forward to our second phase in scaling nationwide for a full launch. In September, we want to shift from targeting specifically local Florida residents into our very clear, personalized audiences. You know, affluent families, younger millennial or Gen Z couples, urban explorers, older couples, and of course, meeting and event planners. And ideally, what we're going to do is start with a digital focus so that we're gaining learnings, understanding what works, and then transitioning into more bigger, more visible executions as well. And just to hit on that, we're going to have a really digital-first, performance-based campaign here, gaining learnings from what we're able to measure on social and search, CTV integration, online video, and programmatic ads that are able to actually reach the intended audience that we have, measure what they're seeing, see what their conversion rates are, and then appending those digital learnings with more visible, memory-focused, everyday kind of activations. While people are listening to Spotify or their favorite podcasts, out and about with out of home and things like gas station TV, and really partnering with the rest of the VSPC team to make sure that we are working hand in hand with owned and earned media so that all of this works together towards driving more of that bet tax revenue.
So yeah, we've talked a lot about what beach culture is, but we'd love to share some examples of how it's coming to life. So beach culture, as Vanessa mentioned, it is a campaign that we're launching, and while most beach destinations really focus on the beach with a side of culture, we want to put culture on equal footing with your beautiful beaches. And when we say culture, we don't mean just your art per square feet, which you do have a lot of amazing murals and art and hands-on experiences, but really it is the breadth of offerings that your destination has that showcases the culture. Everything from the exciting sports events that you have, the unrivaled elite events that we talked about earlier, everything from your local fair to Michelin recommended restaurants. All the family fun activities and things that people can do. So just really putting that on equal footing together as it relates to beach culture. So part of the campaign we're going forth with at launch is what we're Connected TV. So we have 3 examples here to share with you, each focus on their own priorities as well. One thing to note about our audiences that we had mentioned, we have first here are mature couples, so they really prioritize both beach and culture, so we're making sure we're kind of majoring and minoring in messages that really resonate with them. So you'll see with this spot, we're putting those in equal footing. Our Gen Z audience, they understand the beaches here, so we got to educate them about all the cultural things that there are to do here, so you'll see that come to life here. And then we have our affluent families. They're here for the beach, but they don't want to, put their kids on an iPad after they've had a long day at the pool. They want to make sure they're culturally stimulated. They have things to do. So putting all the culture up at the forefront and letting them know about the offerings really is the priority. With our CTV spots, our concept is what we're calling reels. So again, taking that or show not tell approach with our destination marketing, making sure we're kind of breaking the mold. We imagine this concept, it's as you're scrolling through someone's camera roll after they come back from vacation, it's really showcasing these memories and really showcasing the amazing experiences paired with a really catchy soundtrack that's going to be memorable. So I'll go ahead and play this for you.
Discover your beach culture at visitspc.com.
So again, really leading with a strong call to action, really creating an inspirational, experience for everybody here. We do have 30 and 15-second spots for all these audiences, so I'll go ahead and share the affluent family spot here.
Start making memories at visitspc.com.
So again, here leading with the beach and showcasing all the great cultural things to do in St. Pete Clearwater. One thing to note about the video and photography style, we intentionally took a less traditional approach than other destination marketing places. And in fact, that we are kind of showing these sort of in-between moments, like not the very polished, but the moments everybody can relate to more clearly. And last but not least, we have our mature couple. So again, that split here.
perfect getaway at visitspc.com.
So yeah, again, Gen Z really leaning on that cultural experience where families is really leveraging the beach experience, and then we have our mature couples at 50-50 split. And this is something we are testing across the board to ensure that we are making the right messaging that's going to resonate with the right audiences. In addition to CTV, we have a host of other channels that we are launching in. This is an example of some of our interest and partner-based ads here. So this is our food-focused ads that we've recently launched for some local publications, as well as our Tampa Bay Restaurant Months. You'll see that we are, again, majoring and minoring in certain messages here. So when we're showcasing the culture, we're always hinting to the beach and vice versa. So really showing these vibrant, beautiful food photography with fun lines like our food is even finer than our sand, or pack your shades, our chefs really shine, again, to nod to the beach and the sunshine. Some examples of our digital ads we are running in programmatic and paid social across the board. These are very static, but it's taken a very emotion-forward approach here. Again, driving to those unique landing pages. And then these are the landing pages we've collaborated with Miles. So each of these targeted to each of the audiences to ensure they are creating inspiration and driving bookings. Also launching with some out-of-home and print. So again, carrying over those key messages into these ads as well. And then now we know that a lot of people are finding inspiration through social media channels, so we are leaning on influencer to really help us tell that story. So not only are we able to leverage our own social media followers, we're also leveraging these key followers with great followings as well. So I'll play a couple of those.
My dad's a professional fisherman. He's won endless tournaments, and he even has a fishing show on Discovery Channel. But funny enough, it seems one of his favorite memories is growing up, waking up at the crack of dawn, and going on headboats to fish until sundown with his dad. So for Father's Day, I decided to surprise him with a trip to St. Pete with a fishing day on a headboat. This is his favorite memory with his dad, so I want to experience it with mine, even if I'm catching no fish. We're currently 5-0, but I'm going to change that at the next stop.
Good luck.
And the cards were in my favor because I absolutely did. It was so fun getting to do something new with my dad that we never would have really done. If you're in St. Pete, you have to go to Hubbard's Marina and hop on their party boat for some deep sea fishing.
So again,
that's like my childhood hero. I didn't know he was coming, and I totally missed it.
yeah, so our goal is to really showcase a wide range of local businesses and showcases a wide range of interests with a wide host of influencers across different demographics.
This is St. Pete, Clearwater in Florida. Fly into the Tampa airport and check into a beautiful Marriott with plenty of room. Visit some of the most beautiful beaches, restaurants, and don't forget those sunset strolls with your family. You will have the most amazing time by going to the Sunken Gardens, visiting the St. Pete Pier, and going ziplining. Of course, don't forget the white sand beaches. Comment Clearwater for this itinerary.
In addition to our more traditional channels, we're testing out some new ad formats in a couple of different areas. So first off with ChatGPT ads, which we'll be running and testing and optimize accordingly. And then we have some TikTok travel ads that we'll be testing out. This is not ours per se, but just an example of what this type of ad might look like as we start to run those. But again, really meeting users where they are in terms of social media and finding that inspiration and driving bookings. That's an example of the TikTok. I don't think it has sound, but you'll see how it comes to life. And from there, you can click and start booking directly. So again, creating that clear call to action and path to conversion.
All right. Well, what's next? Coming back near the microphone this time. So yeah, what's next? We are, as Matt alluded to, launching in the local in-state market right now. Next, phase 2 in September. This is blowing this out entirely across all of our key markets, across all channels as well. And then with that nod to meetings and conventions too, that's just as important to us as the leisure focus. So want to make sure that that beach culture is really shining through with that relevant messaging to those persons and organizations. So making sure that that's happening, working very closely with agency partner Lou Hammond Group, also the VSPC team, organic team as well, to make sure that we're really integrating in a way to make sure that that storytelling is relevant across all touch points. And then global expansion too. What does beach culture look like like internationally as well. So all that is on our radar, all that is being taken into consideration. We're really pumped about it. I hope you are too. Of course, the purpose of this local launch is to gain that that excitement and that adaptation, and making sure that you're all speaking the language as well. So it's been a really great pleasure working with the team on this, and I can't wait to see all that we're going to be accomplishing together. So thanks again for your time and your patience, and it's been a pleasure and honor to be here. Thanks.
Great. Comments, questions, anybody? Dylan?
Just a comment, great job. It looks awesome. Really love all the components.
Dylan always says it the right way first. I agree 100%. It's great, refreshing, looks good. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful. All right.
Thanks, team.
Next on the agenda, Brian?
Yeah, I'm going to be quick. I've been crossing these off, but we are joined today. We have a new public relations agency, and so we asked them to come today and introduce themselves. You'll see some friendly and familiar faces, but please join me in welcoming Lou Hammond Group, and they can introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having us. We'll keep it short and sweet. I know everyone's ready for lunch. I'm Mackenzie Comer, Senior VP at Lou Hammond Group now, and I'm joined by Britt Chapman, Aaron Murphy, and Valentina Vigliarolo. To say we're honored is an understatement. As locals, we're passionate advocates for the destination, so we're thrilled to serve as your new PR agency of record. But beyond the Florida team that you'll have day to day, we have offices in New York, Charleston, Denver, and all throughout the United States. So you'll have the bench strength of our entire agency. So while we're locally connected, you have that national recognition. Happy to answer any questions, but we're just thrilled to be here.
Mackenzie, welcome back. We're
Thank
thrilled to
you.
see
Yes,
you.
it's been a few years. Happy to be back in this room.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, y'all. And then the last comment I would just have is I can't let you leave. It's the month of July. That means it's our favorite holiday, 727 Day, just around the corner. You'll see on your desk you've got a 727 Day T-shirt, exclusive drop, one of a kind. There's only about 1,500 of them in existence, so wear them proud, wear them often, wear them. Not only are we celebrating this year on the actual 727 Day, because it's on a Monday. You know, so we want to celebrate all weekend. So we're kicking things off on Saturday, July 25th. That evening, we're going to be out at the Rays game. We're going to be handing out over 1,000 727 Day T-shirts, so folks can get them there. I recommend if you're going, do it early because last year there was a frenzy out there. We ran out of T-shirts. On the actual 727 Day, you can go into any Kawa Coffee in Pinellas, and between the hour of 7:27 a.m. and 7:27 a.m., you can get a free coffee, and I'm willing to bet if you go in and ask for any free small drink, they're going to hook you up. So we're looking forward to celebrating this year, and I believe this weekend at the Tampa Bay Ice Cream Fest, we are going to be handing out tickets to the Rays game. I'm looking to the team. Yes, sorry. All my marketing folks are behind the pillar, so great, thank you. So just a lot of great things going on this year for 727 Day. This has grown over the years. This year, we've partnered with over 140 businesses locally to create 727-inspired deals. So you can go on your cell phone. Everyone's got one. Download the 727 Day mobile passport. Go on there, check out the deals. You check into 2 of those small businesses with those 727 Day deals, you get a T-shirt. So you can be one of the few lucky ones. So thank you.
Other comments? Anybody? Chuck, first.
Thank you, Chair. Our Board of County Commission Vice Chair, Chris Latvala, and member of our TDC, lost his father last Wednesday, Jack Latvala. And if any of you ever went to Tallahassee when Senator Jack Latvala was in office, you could walk in his office and he would fight for tourism. Whatever your issue was, he would listen, and then he would represent. So as a friend of tourism, a friend of hospitality, I just want to say he'll be sorely missed, and I think we'd be remiss by not just mentioning that at the end of today's meeting. So.
Thank you. Phil?
Earlier in the meeting, I said I wouldn't be here next year because I'm coming up on the end of my 24 years of service on the TDC. Not nearly as long as Russ has been here, but I think we're both rolling out because we've, Commissioner Long initiated term limits 3 terms ago, or a little over 3 terms ago. And I am not desirous of staying on. I'm not making a plea for that, but I think that we should have a conversation about the term limits. And I think it's very important to have a few members on the board that have longevity and history and can refer back to things that we've done in the past and know that, well, we tried that already, or whatever the case may be. Having that history on the board, I think, makes a big difference. Russ and I are the 2 longest standing members. We're both rolling off. And there's some very good people that are around this room here and others that are not here currently that probably should stay on a little longer than just the 3 terms to keep that longevity. That's what I feel. But it's a conversation. Maybe we could have it in one of the next couple of meetings or so to address that and see if there's a pleasure of maybe extending the terms or eliminating that altogether. So just throwing it out there.
All right. Other comments?
If I may, Chuck and I both serve on the Board for Florida Restaurant and Lodging. And next, in 1st of September, actually the 3rd of September, are the Rose Awards, which is the recognition of service excellence. And it is open up to anyone in the hospitality business. You don't have to be part of FRLA. But it is a great night of recognizing those people that service our guests. So.
Great program they come up with. Anything else, Mayor? Anything else?
I do not.
All right, Brian? Thank you, Council. Thank you for everybody here, and we're looking forward to working with all of you. This is dismissed.